Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your revived, repaired, rebooted, rejuvenated, refreshed, and returning hosts.
I am John.
And I'm Cece. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. Only there is a lot less cool anime to watch these days.
Yeah, about that.
As you might have heard by now, there's a little global pandemic going around. And of course, this also affects anime production as well. John, you see what happens when we go on hiatus for 2 months.
Yeah, I know, right? And then you ended up going in and having a procedure done. I got an allergy attack last night, so it sounds like I'm sick and I might have caught the Roni V, but I didn't.
Is that what they call it now, the Roni V?
You know what? I heard Harley Morenstein say it once in a YouTube video, and I was like, you know what? That is a social media safe way of saying it without YouTube being like, hey, this video is about the disease. It might get flagged.
I see the appeal, but I don't know what's worse, this or calling HIV the HIV. The verdict is still out on that one. Anyway, remind me to never go on hiatus this long again. I think we might have jinxed it. Anyhow, despite the difficult circumstances, and even though we are technically already a month deep into spring season right now, we didn't want to return without taking a quick look at all the shows that premiered, or didn't, and are still running, or are not. So
some shows are on again, off again.
Yeah.
Some of the big ones are off, which, you know, is definitely signaling some serious business.
Yes, so we'll fill you in on all of that in the sneak peek that's coming up. And after that, we'll rejoin the young heroes from UA High School to discuss the 4th season of one of our favorite shonen action series of all time, My Hero Academia. Sounds like a good return to form, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Alright, welcome back to the sneak peek. We have taken a look at some of the shows that premiered, but not all of them are on air right now. So we'll tell you which ones are those once we get to them. And then maybe later after the normal stuff, we'll mention a couple of the other shows that are affected by the COVID-19 shit. I have really only watched the first episode of every show that I checked out. I don't know if you, I don't know about you, John, if you're more deep into some of the shows that have premiered for spring.
I mean, I got a little deep into some of them, and I don't know if you checked out more than I did, but there were some where I just like got one or two episodes in, and I was just like, But there are some that I got a little deeper in, and you know, as usual, we have our nopes, our maybes, and our keepers, and we'll talk through all of that. So,
indeed. So let's actually do just that. All right, John. Then maybe hit us off with your nopes, because I think you have more than me, a lot more apparently. So we'll see where this goes. Some of my maybes might be in there.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with this season was there's a lot of stuff that looked interesting.
Yeah.
And then,
at least at first glance.
Yeah, that. And in addition to Roni V coming into town, I just, at the time, was like, I'm going to have to make a lot of cuts, mostly because, for the sake of time. I mean, now that I'm on furlough, I have all the time in the world, but as much as I enjoy anime, I'd rather not spend every waking moment. I'd like to do other things as well.
Understandably so.
So my first nope was Wave Listen to Me.
That's one of my maybes still, but I can see why it's a nope for you, because it's bordering on one for me as well.
Yeah, so It's about this lady, Minare Koda, who spills her heartbroken woes to a radio station worker she meets while out drinking. And the next day, she hears a recording of her pitiful grumbling being played live over the air. She storms into the station in a rage, only then to be duped by the station director into doing an impromptu talk show, explaining her harsh dialogues. And with just one recording, the many eccentric facets of Minare's life begin to pull every which direction as she falls ever deeper into the world of radio. This lady can talk.
Oh, yeah.
And the speed at which she goes is like, oh my, how do you breathe?
Yeah, it's quite
Do
impressive.
you breathe?
Yeah. It's a waterfall of words.
Yeah, and I mean, this seemed kind of interesting at first, but it also seemed really weirdly sort of exploitative. And I say that because, you know, this guy like stealthily records this woman and then it's like, oh, hey, I'm going to use this against you, not for any particular reason, not because I know you or have a grudge against you. I'm just going to use this. And then it's like, dude, that's kind of...
It's fucked up, yes.
It's kind of fucked up and weird, man.
I mean, I see why he does that. I mean, I think that's the reason behind it, because he sees something in her when he talks to her at the bar, and he's like, "Oh, this woman has a great voice. I like her, and I like her stories. So I'll try to fucking con her into becoming one of my radio hosts." And he, you know, like you said, he uses an underhanded method. But, you know, maybe his heart is in the right place because he sees some unused potential in her. Let's be generous for a moment. Right? So maybe that's why he does it. But you're right. Like, the setup is a bit... there might be a case for being able to sue that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the setup is already a bit weird. But then you mentioned that she talks a lot. That's the thing. She's becoming a radio host, and she tells like these personal stories and dishes out her opinion for the viewers or for the listeners, right? And I'm interested in radio, and I'm interested in, you know, talking a lot. I mean, we're doing a fucking podcast, so what the fuck ever. But you know,
The bit for the setup at the start of the episode where she's doing the radio show and that she's like playing it off like she's in the forest getting stared down by a bear.
Yeah, it's like a stage radio play thing, right? It's a mix of a listener Q&A, and then, you know, having like this weird fucking scenario for it where it's like a bit of a story on the side, which, you know, is fun because, at least in the sense that it's giving you a bit of a visually interesting background instead of her just sitting in a chair and talking. So,
but that whole bit felt like it went on like way too long.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I got to a point where it was like 5 or 6 minutes in, and I was like, all right, okay, and
yeah, true. It went on too long. And yeah, I still found it to be funny, right, from the setup alone. But like you said, like I said, there's a lot of monologuing, and the talking is very loud and extremely fast, and with barely any punctuation to speak of. So this could become really grating over time. In fact, it already was to me in the first episode, or at least very exhausting to listen to. So I don't know if I'll be able to stick with it. I mean, I also sometimes tend to talk at a speed of about 100 miles per hour, but geez,
you're not constantly doing it.
Yeah, slow the fuck down, pace yourself. So it's like a fucking barrage hitting your ears. And yeah, it was really exhausting in the first episode. I'm sorry. I like her character. I like her voice in itself, but the way that it's handled in this show is just too much, I think. So it's also boring on me for no. Like I said, I like the idea because it's kind of an unusual, again, you know, work show. We have a bunch of shows about, you know, workplaces and stuff like that in anime. And this is something that I don't remember having been tackled before in any other show, really. So this is cool in itself. It's like, hey, this is something, and it's something I'm interested in. But the way they do it still feels a bit of like too over the top. If they leaned more heavily into the radio drama section or made it more of a dialogue between her and her listeners than her just fucking rattling off the fucking questions and her answers to it in light speed, then it would have been a bit more appealing to me. Like this, it just didn't hit the right buttons for me. So we'll see. I might give it another 1 or 2 episodes, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm thoroughly out. So.
Okay. That's fine. I can totally see why. So, what's your next note?
My next is probably going to catch some flack for this because it was like the big poster boy for the season, but fuck it, Tower of God. Oh,
okay. Well, I also can't see why, but I've only seen the first episode, so I was still holding out hope a bit, but apparently that hope was misplaced, judging from your sentiment.
It depends on what you're looking for in your anime, but,
fun things.
I mean, I will say this. The production of the show, at least from the first couple episodes that I watched, is fucking phenomenal. It's a very pretty show.
Artwork-wise, I would agree. Animation-wise,
I do think the animation has some really strong moments in there.
It does, but also some really shoddy ones, or at least felt to me like that. But, just we'll see. But you're right. Yeah, that's definitely some high points there.
Yeah, anyway, so it is said that if you manage to climb to the top of the Tower of God, any wish will be granted. Rachel can't bear to live in darkness anymore, and so despite her friend Bam's wishes, his name is Bam. Okay.
Yes, it is.
She opens the door to the tower to begin her ascent. Bam, in despair, follows her, only to learn that ascending the tower isn't as easy as just walking up the stairs. A strange creature named Head-On, Jesus Christ, tells him that he will have to pass tests to prove his worth, the first of which is evading a gigantic eel made of steel and breaking a black orb. Aided by Princess Yuri of Jahad and her companion Evan, Bam gains the magic sword Black March and is able to move on to the second floor. Rachel can't be all that far ahead, but it may cost him to pursue her. It's just... I don't know. All of this is like I have to get the girl back. Also, battle royale. Okay, and I was done.
I don't mind battle royale. I don't mind your getting the love girl back story if it's done in an interesting way. But I know something about this felt just so. Hey, remember Sword Art Online? Where you have to reach the top of the tower and there's like your fucking wish fulfillment thing. Or, shit like that. And then it felt a bit isekai, even though it really isn't. But, the terminology, again, is very video gamey and shit like that. And it's like, okay, this is a fucking isekai in disguise again or something like that. Fucking, So that was the thing that, put me off from the first episode a bit. On the other hand... Kevin Penkin is doing the soundtrack. I love his work. So,
yeah, he is.
So, damn, that was something that pulled me in, most definitely. Yeah, I like the art style because it's got this more rough, sketchy look to it, but very colorful. And I think this is like a co-production between Crunchyroll and the Korean site Webtoon. Mm-hmm. I think so. Yes. Okay. So, just in terms of this being an unusual production is pretty interesting. I think I'll give it another 1 or 2 episodes and then I'll decide. I'm not sure right now, but the first episode had some vibes where I was like, I don't know if I like where this is going. Also, this seems a bit in parts a bit hyper vague esoteric thingy. So we'll see where it goes. I don't know, but. Was your main gripe with it that it's just 2 genres that you are not interested in, or?
It just feels like I've seen this sort of story before. And I mean, it's hard to make original stuff. I get that. But I was just sort of like,
I mean, you don't have to do original stuff. If you do conventional stuff, you just have to do it very good. Look at My Hero Academia. So,
Yeah.
right? And you're right. I don't know if Tower of God is doing that yet. So, but I've barely met any of the characters. I don't know, how many episodes did you get in?
2 or 3.
Okay, so I give it as many as that, and then we'll see what happens. So for now, it's a maybe. All right. So, your next nope.
My next one, we'll go with Tamayomi.
Okay, haven't even heard of that, I think.
So you remember Cinderella 9 when I talked about that?
Yes. That was a baseball show, right?
Yes, and
Yes.
they were trying to sell you on a mobile game because, of course.
Of course.
This one isn't. It's trying to sell you on the manga that it's based off of, which is kind of like, okay, that's...
Sounds better.
At least you have some material to work with, and not, let's just hire a TMS to shit out this anime. And, TMS does good work most of the time, but boy, Cinderella 9 wasn't that. This is... Tamayomi was slightly better, but I don't know. So it's about 2 girls named Tamaki, and Yomi. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yomi Takeda was the pitcher of her school's team in junior high, but her baseball club did not get far because it lacked a catcher that could catch Yomi's miracle ball. She got a really wild screwball, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
that helps.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
Yomi quit baseball, graduated from junior high, and enrolled at Shinkoshigaya High School. Yomi reunited with her childhood friend Tamaki Yamazaki at her new school. Tamaki has skill as a catcher and can even catch the ball when Yomi pitches with all her strength. The girls can fulfill their childhood promise to each other as they start their baseball journeys anew. And this is, cute girls playing sports. And it's competently animated. I don't know. I watched a few episodes of it and I was like, this seems fine. But it's, it didn't really super hold my interest. It's a very sort of uplifting story about, hey, you can do the thing. And all of you who don't think you can do the thing, you can do it too. Let's be friends together and learn from our strengths and our weaknesses and get good at baseball.
And I mean, we have checked out shows like that before. Harukana Receive comes to mind, and we both like that show, I think. So are you not in the mood for something like that this time around, or is there something lacking on accounts of the show?
I'm not really sure. I guess maybe it just doesn't have that
spark.
that Harukana Receive had. I don't know. You watch a lot more sports anime than I do because I know that's your jam, and that's fine. That's whatever. Just something about this just didn't really hit as hard. So I'm sure people will enjoy this show because it seems perfectly enjoyable and fine. I don't have any complaints to really levy against it. It's just
Well, I gotta admit, as many sports anime as I watch, I still haven't found one for baseball that I could connect to. Maybe because that's just not a game I'm super interested in, a sport, and the rules seem a bit too obtuse for me, and so I'm every baseball anime I checked out didn't really bother to explain the rules to me. So it's like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. I tried to check out. What was the one, the very short that's still running? Ace of Diamond, I think. Yes.
Yeah,
Tried to check out the first season for that. Got a couple of episodes in, and besides the main hero being way too shonen-y and way too loud and annoying, it just was like assuming that you knew how one plays the baseball, and I don't. So.
Well, I think, and please don't quote me on this, but I think the rules of baseball are slightly different in Japan than they are in America.
Oh, okay.
Like at least the scoring is. I don't know about other stuff, but but yeah, I mean, I guess the big baseball animes to go to are probably like you said, Ace of the Diamond, Princess 9, Major.
Yeah, Major is the other big one that comes to mind.
and there's other, I'm sure, that aren't jumping to mind. I mean, it's not strictly baseball, but Little Busters has baseball in it, so
I guess.
But yeah, I mean, the show seemed inoffensive. It seemed fine, but it was like, there's other things that I'd rather waste my time watching.
Yeah, I can understand. Maybe I'll find a baseball anime one of these in the future that I can actually watch, because I would like to. All right, so this is not going to be that either. Okay, I'm going to dish out a nope as well, my only one actually.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Sakura Wars the animation, which is based on, well, I thought it would be a remake of the old show or the old game. I don't know what came first. I assume the old games.
Pretty sure.
Which is set like in this steampunky version of Edo period Japan, I think, and where like a bunch of, I think a special police force comprised of women just jumps into mechs and then fights shit. And that sounds very enticing. So it's like, hey, finally a way to get into this franchise, because it's a bigger franchise, and there's a new video game coming up. Problem is, this is not a remake. This is a sequel to the old show, to the old series. I don't know if the game is as well. Maybe, I assume.
I think this ties into the new games somehow. I'm not sure if it's a retelling of the new game's story, or if it's like, a story that happens parallel to it. But I know it ties into the new game because it's all the same characters from the new game.
Yeah, but it definitely references like the old cast of old Sakura Wars being a thing, and that's a thing that has been happening before this, or that's how I understood it. So I was like, okay, this is a sequel, so if they like make any more references to the old stuff, I will be completely lost. So this is a bad point to start. Also, it's full CG and not made by Orange, so I'm gonna pass on that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this was coming up, and I was kind of interested in it, but then I was like, well, wait, I'm just going to buy and play the game instead, so... Yeah.
So if this was not a side story and it actually, an anime adaptation of the game story, then what's the point? I might as well play the game as well, so have more fun with it. Usually, that's the... Unless you have a giant-ass RPG where you're like, okay, watching the anime will cost less time. Like maybe for Tales of Systeria, the Cross, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe PSO2. We'll get to that. But...
Well, let's not forget there were 2 PSO2s.
Yeah, that's true.
And they were not made equal.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not talk about the first one anymore. But
wait, there was a first one? That doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That's like Tsukihime. What's that?
Hey, I like Tsuki. That's a whole other discussion for another day. Anyway, so I'm not gonna watch Sakura Wars the animation, which is a shame, because I was kind of looking forward to getting into this franchise. But if this is only based on the new game, which I can play, and it expects you to have maybe watched or the old series, or to be familiar with the older games, then I'm kind of, all right. Well, maybe not.
Well, I don't blame you.
Yeah, all right. So, do we have any nopes left, John?
I got 2 more.
All right, I'm listening.
Yes, you are. 2 listeners.
Okay. So that's also still a maybe for me, because I kind of like the first episode. So tell me your thoughts on it.
So let's talk about this. So in a post-apocalyptic future that's been torn apart by shattered creatures known as the Earless, humanity's heroes are the players, who pilot mecha known as equipment. There's a lot of English in this show.
Love it.
To battle their inhuman enemies while earning fame and fortune to boot. Echo is a young tech head who dreams of working amongst the players and their equipment, going as far as to build a makeshift mecha of his own, but he has long since resigned himself to life in the destitute scrap heaps that cover so much of the world now. That is until he discovers an amnesiac named Mew, who has a mechanical port in her back that is the telltale sign of a player. The pair becomes fast friends, and they use their skills to fight for the world and defeat the Earless. So, I mean, on the surface, this has, I guess, an alright setup. My problem with this show is that its story and writing is handled by this guy named Gene. I try to look up what his actual name is, but I don't know off the top of my head. He's done a lot of music stuff. If you've ever heard of this big like musical project, it was called like Kagero Days. This big like Vocaloid album project thing. And then it got sort of pseudo-adapted into this anime called Mikaku City Actors.
That sounds familiar.
Yes. So, that show went really off the rails. And it got to a point where I was like, what the fuck was this show even about? And I got, I think, like maybe 4 or 5 episodes into Listeners, and I was starting to see some of that come out. And I was just like, I don't know, man. I mean, the music's good. The animation is kind of...
I love the soundtrack to this. I mean, the animation isn't super great, especially not on the CG mix, but...
Yeah, it's like, kind of hit or miss, but...
Yeah. But the soundtrack fucking slaps.
Yeah, it does, because Jin is first and foremost a musician, and he's fucking good at what he does, except for the whole writing a story thing. And like I said, that was sort of starting to come through in weird ways in those first few episodes, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this to myself again.
Which is weird to me, because the story felt pretty grounded in the first episode. It felt like, okay, this is a classic, like, two outsiders kind of, one with amnesia, of course, and then they like start working together and fight against evil aliens or whatever. By the way, why are those creatures called earless? They look like shadow mice with speaker ears, so that seems a bit like a misnomer on the visual side of things.
Don't worry about it.
It's like, what the fuck? Okay, sure, why not? Call them colorless or something. Yeah, this aside from that, it felt like, okay, this is also has a bit of a Trigon vibe and shit like that. So I kind of liked everything about the design and the soundtrack and the story setup in itself. It felt like a bit of, Trigon, Eureka 7 mashup, maybe a bit Cowboy Bebop sprinkled in here with the soundtrack and everything. So yeah, I was like, okay, this might not, like, animation-wise look too great, but there are some good seeds sown here. So I was interested to see where it goes, but it sounds...
I mean, maybe it'll get better. Maybe there were just some false flags in there, but I was just like,
So I'll give it like another 1 or 2 episodes and then see if I see those weird story beats that you were talking about popping up and then getting worried too. But I really like that moment where the power of Echo's equipment is unleashed for the first time. Like, talk about a magic music moment in an anime. Yeah. It was really good. And I was like, okay, I think I'm on board. Not sure yet, but I'll see where this goes for a couple more episodes, but this is a bit worrying. All right. Okay.
All right, I have one final note, and it may surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s.
Oh, shit! What the fuck, John?
Okay, all right, so...
This is the first... Wait, you didn't finish Zeal, so this is the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Series since Zeal or Zexal that you didn't, that you are not interested in.
There's several problems with this. The first is, it's not licensed anywhere. And trying to find fan subs for this show is like pulling fucking teeth. So I don't want to have to go hunting around for it if I don't need to.
Understand.
There is this is a kid show, like way more than any other Yu-Gi-Oh! Before it. And, you know, that's fine. I don't want to watch a kid's show, though, you know? So the long and short of it is, the show takes place in the futuristic town of Goha, and our main character, Yuga Odo, is a 5th grade elementary school student. Mm-hmm. There's your demo for the show.
All right.
He loves making his own inventions and dueling, but he feels that the current rules of duel monsters are too stifling, and he successfully manages to hack into the back end of the big corporation that oversees dueling, the corporation Goha, because of course, it's the same as the town. Mm-hmm. They own the town, I guess. And he installs his own creation known as the Rush Duel, which allows for more fast-paced and frantic dueling. And the series follows Yuga and his friends as they show off the delights of Rush Duels, blah, 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 blah. Rush Duels are interesting, though. So
is it like a speed chess thing, like on a timer or something like that?
I mean, not quite. So the way speed duels worked in the arcade games and in Vrains, where it was like a smaller gameplay field where you only have 3 monster zones and 3 spell and trap zones. That sort of carried over. Mm-hmm. Now you can normal summon as many times as you want per turn, and at the top of your turn you draw until you're holding 5 cards. So and I feel like that's an interesting way of being like, hey, just throw out all the fucking cards you want. And it's like, oh, that makes it interesting. That, gives it a little bit more variation than what we'd seen in the past. So that much is neat. But, the character designs are kind of not the best. and you could tell this is very severely animated on a budget, mostly because they switched studios to this one called Bridge. And they have worked on children's card game shows before, if you're familiar with Card Fight Vanguard.
Yes.
But, that's... And you know what? The show is a banger of an intro song, and I linked you to it.
Yes, so. It's great.
So yeah, it's got, everything going for it for a younger audience. I'm like sort of,
Hey, they can't all be winners. Or, let's say, not all for you.
I mean, Zexal wasn't.
Exactly. Maybe, once in a while, there needs to be a bad Yu-Gi-Oh! Show to cleanse the palate.
I mean, and this show doesn't seem inherently bad. It's just not for me.
Exactly. Right. So,
that's Yu-Gi-Oh! 7, so I'm sad to say I'm not watching a new show. It is one of the ones that was delayed this season anyway, so.
All right. Sure. Okay. But that's good information for people who want to watch it and can't because fan subs are hard to find.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping Crunchyroll would pick it up the way they did like pretty much every other show. They didn't pick up the sub for Zexal for some reason, but they have the whole rest of the series, so.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's it for the nopes, I think. So we're going to switch over to the maybes. I mean, we've already covered some of my maybes on the virtue of them being in John's nope section. And my first show that is still a maybe is Gleipnir, which is another battle royale murder game anime, pretty much in the vein of last season's Darwin's game. Basically, a bunch of people that gained the power to transform into monsters kinda are on the hunt for literal star coins. Yeah, yeah, it's coins with stars on them, so sure, why not? The main character's monster form is a giant stuffed dog mascot. That stuffed animal thing seems to be a common thread in these battle royale or murder mystery anime thingies. Darwin's game had it too. I don't know why. Was it Danganronpa that made this popular? Was it Five Nights at Freddy's? It's weird. And so is the main character of this thing, which is, it's really like when he transforms, it's just a fucking giant mascot dog with this creepy smile. I don't know if it's supposed to be like, oh, this is so terrifying and off-putting, or like, no, this kind of just looks dumb, especially if there's like a big action scene. So, I don't know, it's weird. Also, the character design for the main guy, Shuichi, when he's not transformed, looked so generic that he could give the main character from Tabuta 2 a run for his money. But
wow.
I guess that's the point. Like, he's supposed to be the ultimate nerd self-insert, I guess. Again, I mean, you could be that guy. You could be the nerd with the glasses who plays fucking mobile puzzle games all the time. That's shown in one scene.
You could be Kirito too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As it could turn out to be a fun trash stash entry. The production values certainly seem alright. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet. I like at least one of the characters so far, but we'll see where it goes. It's very horny.
Yeah, I heard Gigax say that.
Yes, it's horny on main. It's really like, this is a very edgy show that can be fun too. I mean, I really liked Killing Bites. That was a great trash stash entry that I had a lot of fun with, and that was also incredibly horny. So we'll see where this goes. This might run in the same vein, but I'm not really. I love the monster designs in Killing Bites. I don't really like the monster designs in this so far. So this will be probably the thing that pushes this into a nope or lets us stay on as a maybe. So we'll see.
Yeah, it seemed really sort of creepy, edgy, and I was just sort of like,
Yeah, which, hey, if it's having fun with that, I don't mind. If it's like indulges in that too much and takes itself too seriously, then it becomes a problem. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, that is my first maybe. John, what is your first maybe?
Mine is Arte.
Oh yeah, that's on my list as well.
16th century Firenze. Ezio Auditore. What? The birthplace of the Renaissance era where art is thriving. In one small corner of this vast city, one sheltered girl's journey begins. Arte dreams of becoming an artist. Your name is a little on the nose, honey. An impossible career for a girl born into a noble family. In these days, art was an exclusively male profession, with women facing strong discrimination. In spite of these challenges, Arte perseveres with hard work and a positive attitude. This show's cute. It's about a girl trying to make her way into a man's world, baby. And they sort of hammer that home over the course of the first few episodes, which was sort of like, okay, I like this setting, I like this character, but but I get it. I get it. I understand. Can we sort of move past that? And a few episodes after that, they kind of start to, where they show her trying to so we're coming into her apprenticeship, that's the word, with this man named Leo, who may or may not be Leonardo da Vinci.
I had my suspicions of that too, but I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but we'll see.
I mean, they're probably just using the name Leo to invoke that. I don't think maybe. It actually is. But the thing is, the time fits for when Leonardo da Vinci would still be alive. So, having
What should be the muse that inspires him to draw the fucking Mona Lisa or something?
I mean, having your bishy Leonardo da Vinci in this Renaissance era set anime about art, I don't feel like it's out of the question.
No. In anime, it never is. Like these giant leaps of suspense of disbelief. But it's... Sorry, weirdest side note here. Don't you think the beards in this show look weird? Like the beard on Leo, it looks weird. I don't know. It looks... I mean... Like, yeah. I don't know. It looks a bit, I don't know, rough, unfinished. It's just weird. It's just stuck out to me. It was like, wait... This is an unusual way to draw a beard in anime. I don't know, but it was interesting. But yeah, I think the setup is fun. I think Arte is a great character, and I liked her being like this very go-getter attitude, spunky, noble girl that really is like, she comes off in the beginning. It's like, oh, I just like drawing stuff, and when she says that to Leo, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take you on as my apprentice if you do this small task for me. And obviously he's fucking with her and giving her like this in his mind impossible task because he thinks that she's not taking, this seriously or having the right motivation that's gonna actually make her accomplish something. So his time is wasted on her. But when she actually, gives him her real reason because she wants to make it on her own, and everybody says she can't, and art is the only thing she has that she is really good at, so she wants to make that her profession. She wants to make that her thing in life, and not because she just likes to do it. That makes him recognize her as a kindred spirit, where it's like, hey, wait, I started doing this because this is the only thing I could do to not fucking starve. So he is like, okay, she might not be starving because she's from a noble family, but she has another good reason for trying to do it, trying to achieve her goals with becoming an artist, an artisan, and his apprentice. So I really liked their, how they build up those two characters in the first episode and how they become teacher and apprentice. So yeah, that's cool. I'm pretty sure this might become a keeper. I don't know how it continues in the coming episodes, how much actual plot is happening. But another thing I also already liked was how they show you certain things about preparing stuff for drawing, for painting, how some of the artisanship or the profession of artisan worked in that time period. So that was really interesting. Like, I hope we get to have a bit more of an insight into that in the coming episodes. I don't know, you probably can already comment on that because you have watched more than one.
Yeah, I mean, they show, bits and pieces of that, and then there's, I don't want to give too much away, but there are other interesting things that are coming up. So
cool.
I think it's neat. I might watch more of it.
Yeah, definitely a maybe. Definitely not a nope. Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I mean, it was teetering on being a nope in a couple of the early episodes for reasons, but it sort of turned itself around.
Nice.
Anyway, What do you got?
Yes, my next maybe is The Millionaire Detective, Balance Unlimited.
What a fucking name.
Yes, there's a reason for that. So this is basically about a guy who is Bruce Wayne without the bat suit and being more of an asshole. Which doesn't sound super enticing, I gotta admit. It's basically capitalism is cool and good, the animation.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was that one? The Power of Money and Control or something?
Yes, something like that. So it's about this hyper-rich dude called Daisuke, I think, with unlimited amount of money. I don't know how that works, but I guess Jeff Bezos thingy, whatever. But his balance is literally saying unlimited on his fucking bank account. So, he joins a special crime task force, where my interest is coming in. But much to the chagrin of one of their detectives, who recognizes him as the egocentric sociopath that he is. Daisuke is all about the power of money, less about the value of human life. And that shows in the first episode. So this has the potential to be an interesting show if the writers eventually address the rich dude as the jackass he right now obviously is. That all might change. That might be his journey, right? His character journey. But right now he comes across as the ultimate wish fulfillment, surf insert male power fantasy, like a mix of Tony Stark in his worst days and Bruce Wayne, and a mix of all of that. I have slight doubts that they will turn him around. Because it feels like the opening is screaming at you, oh, look at all this money, look at all this cool shit that you can do with money, oh, this is so amazing, and money will solve every fucking crime, and it can do anything. And, yeah. Like I said, I have my doubts this is gonna be a good show, but I'll willing to give it the benefit of the doubt for now, at least for another 1 or 2 episodes. That's why it's not a nope yet, but I am a bit scared. At least him and the more human point of view character they put in there, butting heads could be a fun dynamic. I can see that happening with fun dialogue and everything. We'll see. But for now, this show seems to be a bit too interested in portraying his disregard for expenses and rules as the coolest fucking shit. Like, they even show how much fucking money he spent at the end of every episode. It's frankly ridiculous. So, like, okay, we'll see.
Good life lessons.
Yes, indeed. So, we'll see if there will be an interesting message in that, or if this will be hyper capitalist garbage. Anyway.
The money of soul and possibility control.
Yes.
That's it.
Indeed. John, what's your next maybe?
Kakushigoto.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you talked about this.
Yes. Goto Kakushi is a weekly manga artist known for his ecchi action titles like Balls of Fury and Tights in the Wind.
Lovely.
But he decided when his daughter Hime was born that he would be mortified if she ever found out. So he has always disguised his true occupation from her. To that end, he leaves home in a business suit every day, only to change on the way to the apartment he uses as a studio. Only when Hime turns 18 will she be allowed to learn the truth. But that means there are several close calls as she is growing up. So I didn't know going into this, but I had a feeling. I had to look up who wrote the original manga. It was written by one Koji Kumeta. If you know that name, you're probably familiar with his other work, Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei. This is definitely the same author and the same writing style, because it's every bit as off-kilter and weird and goofy and dumb. And the lengths that Goto goes to keep his daughter safe from this harsh truth of the world is absolutely mind-boggling. There's one at one point where the guy at the publishing company the new guy who is assigned to him, not volunteered, assigned to him, comes to his house to talk about his work, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? My daughter can't know that I work on manga. Get out. It's like, Daddy, who's this? Oh, he's the CEO of the company I work for.
Well played.
And just everything about this story just goes from one rabbit hole to the next, because it's always in the service of keeping a secret from his daughter and all of the other goofy things that happen along the way, like when one of his editors ends up miraculously having a manga debut of his own and hitting the even bigger time than he does. Like I said, the flavor from Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei definitely comes through here as well. It's not as dark and like just awful and bad, you know, the way Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei was, because everything about that was just like, you know, everything about the world is bad, but, you know, it tried to play it off in some comedic way. But I mean, this show also has its parallels because the main character is the same voice actor, Hiroshi Kamiya. So you know,
very much kind of a spiritual successor, but not really.
Yes. So I don't know how much further I'll go with this. I just wanted to check it out because I was curious to see what this is all about, because I guess this manga has been running for about 5 years now. So I just wanted to have a look-see at it, see what they're cooking. Might keep going, might not, I don't know. But it seems like, as far as, you know, stupid gag humor goes, it at least is funny. from episode to episode.
It sounds like a cute little story. I mean, are there heartfelt moments in there as well with him and his daughter, or?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, that's a feeling that a lot of people will be able to plug into, because not only is he trying to keep this secret safe from his daughter, he's also a caring father. He's not just out there trying to be like, oh, I can't let her know about this. He's also like, I want to make sure my daughter is well taken care of and be a good father. And say, oh, okay, because we find out very early on he's a single father. So,
All right.
So, what you got next?
My next maybe is jump back in time, because it's Digimon Adventure. Yeah, so apparently they decided to reboot the first Digimon show, which I really liked. I really liked the original Digimon. It was one of the first anime I watched as anime on TV, like knowing it was anime. And I initially thought it would be like Pokemon, but then it was, oh no, this has an actual story, so that's nice.
Are you implying Pokemon doesn't have a story?
Don't answer
that
I
question.
watched it. Anyway, so yeah, I liked the first one really. For most part, it wasn't particularly well animated. It was one of these early odds DigiPaint show DigiPaint show, but that was. That didn't look really great most of the time. So I was interested to see, hey, so how are they going to switch things up? How is it going to look? And in terms of mixing up things, the remake seems to completely change things story-wise, at least in the beginning. In the original, the cast went to summer camp, and then they got pulled into the digital world, or network as it's called here. But here, shit goes awry in Tokyo immediately, and they are thrown into battle right from the get-go. So I wonder if that's gonna stay the same, if this is like a small prequel thing that's gonna happen. And yeah, the entire production has a much more epic feel to it. Like animation quality, soundtrack, everything is bigger. The final battle in the first episode has a legit kaiju feel to it. And I really liked what they did with it, making it like this more dramatic, epic thing. The character designs are basically the same as in the old show, though a bit higher quality and more well animated. But this is Toei, so we'll see how long it will stay that way. So yeah, I don't know, but I like what I saw in the first episode, and like I said, I have a big fondness for the first 3 seasons of Digimon, like Adventure, Adventure 2, and Tamers. I like those shows quite a lot, so I don't know if they plan to remake all of those eventually, or if it's just going to be this first one. But yeah, I want to see what they do with it. I want to see how they mix things up, and I really like the presentation. So yeah, so far. So I think I'm gonna stick with it. I'll see. But and I forgot to mention this for Millionaire Detective as well. This is one of the series that is suspended right now because of COVID-19. Production got suspended for Digimon Adventure and for Millionaire Detective. And we'll see when they continue. I think there are like 3 episodes in for both these shows, and I have no idea when they will continue and how they will continue. Like, will this like drop over into summer? Are they going to release a bunch of episodes at the same time? What's going to happen? Nobody knows yet. So yeah, we'll see what happens, and when I can continue watching it. But right now I'm still interested. So. We'll see where it goes, but for now, I'm surprised at how much I like this remake. What's your next maybe, John?
My next maybe is Sing Yesterday for me. So, Rikuo Uezumi graduated from college 6 months ago, and not much has changed since then. He's still working part-time at a convenience store, living in his messy student apartment and drifting through life in a way that isn't making him happy. When Shinako, his crush who moved away to become a teacher, returns to town, he begins to think about changing things. But a girl named Haru keeps getting in the way. Rikuo doesn't know much about Haru, but she seems very attached to him, citing a day 5 years ago as the start of her obsession. can Haru help Rikuo change, or will he decide that the rut he's in is fine after all? This is kind of, I feel like this is sort of an oddity this season, because you can tell it's sort of like trying to be a period piece, because the original manga started its run in the 90s, and you can tell that this show is definitely set in the same era, because nobody has cell phones. There's no like big tech like we have now. Like,
so it's not updated like they did, for example, with Banana Fish and stuff like that.
And I still think in Banana Fish they did a massive disservice.
Yeah, maybe that's why some of the story beats didn't work.
Yeah, but yeah, this definitely feels like a story of its time, which I appreciate. It's definitely a story. I mean, the word yesterday is in the title. It's definitely a story about trying or not trying, depending on making an attempt to escape your past or to embrace it. And it definitely comes through in the theming of the show and the character interactions and their motivations, and we see glimpses of like their pasts and whatnot now and then. I think this has the potential to be something interesting. It's, probably it doesn't need to be like this animation powerhouse, because it is, a slice of life show, but it looks pretty clean for the most part, and you can definitely tell that they brought in one of the character designers from Full Metal Alchemist, mostly because the facial structure is very similar.
Oh, okay.
So I was able to pick up on that straight away. I was like, this is the same character designer, isn't it? But it's still, the show looks good, and the characters all play off of each other in interesting ways. So it's hard to talk about slice of life shows and make it interesting. So I don't know if I'll go much further, but so far, the interactions, like I said, are pretty interesting. You get to see inside the heads of these of all of them and what makes them move and go. So might be neat to see more of it.
Could be like a fun, I don't know, relaxer show, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it definitely makes you think about the real life a little much, but
Okay, my last maybe is Appare-Ranman.
That I think I might be keeping that. I'm not sure yet, though.
All right. Okay, so this is a crossover thing. This is basically wacky steampunk races from LA to New York in the early 20th century.
Yeah, it's basically the Cannonball Run if it were an anime.
Yes, which is good. So Appare, the main character, is a genius inventor who only cares about machines, and his family and most of the people around him think he's not doing anything of worth. They don't see his genius, I guess, and what he's trying to do. And a guy named Kosama is tasked to be his overseer. And then, due to circumstances, they have to flee Japan for Appare to escape prison and or death with a steamboat of his own making. And then they get picked up and towed to LA by an American cruise ship, I think. And that's where apparently they get roped into the race for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe there's a prize money involved, probably. And Appare probably wants to prove his designs, and he seems to be infatuated with America as well. So I really like the design of the show. I think it's very bright, it's very colorful, very
PA
interesting.
Works does not disappoint.
No, as usual in the visual department, PA Works mostly delivers. Like, especially the character design on Appare is really interesting. Like. super colorful and unusual, and I like it a lot. And yeah, like in the first episode, at the beginning of the first episode, we get a tease, and in the OP as well, to a lot of the other important characters in the show, and they all have interesting designs. And the cars or vehicles, sometimes they are not really cars, are interesting as well. So this looks really promising, but this is a PA Works show. And I think every show that I checked out from them in recent years was either a snooze fest pretty fast, or it just went off the rails or got disappointing or didn't deliver by the end. Sirius comes to mind, and I forgot that other show, Fairy Tale. Not Fairy Tale. That's another show. Something with Fairy Gone, right? So, and there was
Gone.
Yeah,
don't remember that one.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
I just kind of remember I think one of the last ones that they worked on that I checked out was Irozuku, The World in Colors, and that was kind of like, yeah,
there you go. So, yeah, right, that too. So, okay, we'll see where this goes, but I feel like production-wise, like in terms of presentation, they mostly hit it out of the park. But everything, else maybe could fall a bit flat down the road. So we'll see where this goes. But that's why it's a maybe for me right now. And also it's suspended right now.
Yeah, we got 3 episodes in and then oops.
Yeah, no idea when this will continue. So we'll see. But I'll definitely give it more episodes before I decide. I mean, I have 2 more episodes to watch right now before it picks up production again.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like compared to some of PA Works' other more recent offerings, this feels a little more grounded in comparison, as much as it can be. So I'm interested in seeing, I want to see more of this, so.
Yeah, definitely. For now, it looks really interesting with a cool cast of characters.
Yeah.
All right, John, do you have another maybe?
Gal and Dino.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard about this, but I don't really know what it's about.
So there's this fashion movement in Japan, called Gal or Gyaru, if you're familiar with it. I'm sure you've seen characters.
Yes.
So one day this gal, Kaede, picks up a dinosaur and begins living with it.
Oh. I love it when that happens.
It's this blue dinosaur that, just lives with Kaede and watches TV, learns about fashion from her, eats human food. Kaede's not really sure if dinos can eat human food, and when she tries to Google it, she understandably gets no results.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is sort of a cute, silly little show. The first half of each show is, traditional animation, and, there are these little, 3 to 4 minute stories, and then they have these stop motion animation ones in between those. And then, the back half of the show is where it gets interesting, because suddenly it's a live action show.
So wait, what? Is the dino CG or?
The dino is a person in a big fuzzy suit.
Oh my god. This sounds amazing.
So I had some theories going into this show that I shared with you before it started airing. This show is the animation is being worked on by Kamikaze Doga, doing the traditional 2D stuff, and one Space Neko company, which is doing the stop motion and other weirder stuff. It's being directed by Jun Aoki, and if that combination of names strikes you as interesting, it's because I really, really thought this was going to be a Pop Team epic bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out it might not be, but in the back half of the first episode, the dino is living not with a gal, but with this older older gentleman. And these things keep happening where this older gentleman ends up just like doubling over in pain. And out of nowhere comes this guy, Aoi Shota. He's a big voice actor and whatnot, and he had a prominent role towards the end of Pop Team Epic as well. And he's wearing the same outfit that he did in Pop Team Epic. And he's like trying to turn back the clock and like repair the timeline so this poor old guy doesn't die. And it's like, what is going on with the back half of this show? What is actually happening? And it turns out that the author of Pop Team Epic, Bukabu Okawa, directed those segments.
Okay, interesting.
So there is some weird shit going on with this show where it goes from goofy to just like, what actually is this series? And that's what's got me on the hook mostly. I mean, the front half is cute with these silly little sketches, but then the back half is like, I gotta know what happens. So I don't.
Sounds fun.
I don't know if I'll stick with it all the way to the end, but it is at least, it's got the hook to keep you interested.
Mm-hmm.
So
again, a very unusual production from that team.
Yes.
All right.
I think that's all of the maybes.
Yeah, all right, then let's move over to the keepers. Do you want to start us off?
My first keeper should probably be a maybe. It should probably be a nope because it's a mobile game adaptation. But it's so pretty and it's so fun and it's so well produced. It's Princess Connect Redive.
Never heard of it before.
It's a game produced by Cygames, our friends worked on Grand Blue and World Flipper and Rage of Bahamut and Shadowverse.
Yes.
So this is the story of Yuki, an amnesiac young man who is dumped by an injured god into a fantasy world. Luckily for him, this god sends one of her acolytes, Kokoro, to help and guide him. The problem is she's not exactly the most world-wise person herself, and soon they're joined by the always hungry warrior Pecorine, and they find themselves under attack by the monster-controlling witch Carol, though none of the other three even realize that fact. Nothing seems to be going according to plan for anyone, and this is the story of how this unlikely quartet would make their own guild and scour the world for the most delicious and tasty foods that they can. So, this show, I had a feeling watching the first episode because the show does not play it straight. That's because the show is storyboarded, written, and directed by one Takaomi Kanasaki. We've mentioned this person's name before while talking about Konosuba.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
The flavor of Konosuba comes through very strong.
That's a good thing, though.
Yes. The show at no point takes itself seriously. It's just about these four characters just bumbling through trying to make their own guild, and it doesn't feel like sarcastic or like just nasty or
not
mean the way Konosuba is. It's very lighthearted and funny and silly, and the story centers around these four main characters, and of course, since this is a mobile gacha game with about 1 billion waifus, we sort of start to see some of the other characters on the periphery, on an episode-to-episode basis. So we get to sort of meet some of the other denizens of this city called Landisol. And the show shouldn't be as lavishly produced as it is because it has so far looked consistently incredible. It's probably one of the best looking shows this season, and that's wild to me that Cygames was like, hey, we're just gonna throw all of our money at this, at our own animation studio, our own in-house people, and say, hey, just make the show and have some fun with it.
If I remember correctly, Cygames as usually doesn't really skimp on the budget.
I mean, I guess not on their own internal studio, but they sort of farmed out Grand Blue to other studios, in particular A1 and Mappa.
True.
So, maybe since they're keeping it in-house this time, they're able to just like shovel that money into the side games furnace even harder than they were before, because this show is absolutely gorgeous. To quote one of the characters, how crazy is that?
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun, especially if the writer of Konosuba is involved. And yeah, that's kind of weird to me, because is he involved with the game too, or just with the anime, or?
I think just with the anime. I mean, I don't know too much about the game itself, but because they sort of marketed the game as being like this big, like, oh, anime thing. I mean, if you look at gameplay of it, there's a whole mess of like just lavishly animated cut-ins for the characters' animations, as well as the intro sequence, and also music. So hey, since this is Side Games, they got their in-house composer Yasunori Nishiki working on it, like with Grand Blue, and we can agree that Grand Blue also has fantastic music.
Yes, indeed.
One of the other composers working on this show, you may have heard of him. It's called Kohei Tanaka.
Oh, shit.
So the intro theme is a song called Lost Princess, and the first few bars of it are like, oh no, this is just the Sakura Wars intro song. Got it. It's great. I'm super in love with this show, and I probably shouldn't be, because it's just a dumb mobile game adaptation, but
well, I mean, considering what you told me about who writes that thing and how well it's animated, this sounds like, something that went beyond its source material, I guess. I mean, the first season of Rage of Bahamut did that too. Like, Rage of Bahamut Genesis was a really great show. Was well written, was well animated, so this happens sometimes. I mean, accept it and enjoy it, I guess.
I mean, I want to see more of the exploits of our four friends, so yes. I will, in all likelihood, continue watching it. So, what have you got for keepers?
My first keeper is not really a surprise, because it's Fruits Basket Season 2.
Mm-hmm. That is also on the list.
Yes, not much to say. The story, of Haru and her adopted family, the Somas, continues, and I'm looking forward to all the heartfelt and dark moments to come. Also really interested to see where the plot goes in general, and I mean, we haven't met all of the Somas yet. All of this will be completely new to me. And I'm looking forward to dive deeper into that story and that cast of characters, because I really enjoyed the first season. I mean, we both did. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a pretty special show, a pretty special story. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of it. That's pretty much all. This was bound to be a keeper, by the end of the first season anyway. So, like I said, not much of a surprise. I mean, that is the same for you as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I am looking forward to more of Toru and company.
Yes, indeed. And I guess that's that. John, what's your next keeper?
I guess there's not a whole lot about to say this next keeper as well.
Yeah.
Food Wars.
See, the fifth blade, or season 5.
I mean, technically season 6, but fuck numbers.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, we didn't talk about season 4 because we figured we were going to talk about season 5 pretty much at the same time.
Yes.
Because season 4 kind of was the end of that current arc, and now season 5 is starting up where things are kind of getting back to normal for Soma and company, but there's big exams on the way, and they're all trying to get into this big culinary competition called Blue, and there's this mysterious new teacher who shows up that I already have suspicions about. But yeah, this, obviously just a continuation, and it's great to see more food porn, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
But yeah, unfortunately, the show is also hit with a delay, so we don't know when episode 4, I think, is going to air. I think it stopped after 3.
Yes. Or even after 2. I'm not sure.
A lot of the delays, I feel like, weren't clearly communicated because... Or no, yeah, I think you're right that Food Wars stopped after 2 because with this one, it sounded like they were going to delay after the 3rd episode, but it was actually after the 2nd. And it was the same thing with Appare-Ranman where they were like, oh, we're going to delay after the 4th, but it was actually after the 3rd. And it was like there's some weird miswording or mistranslation in the communication going on here.
Yeah, I hope... Well... That counts for all the shows that got suspended. I hope this will pick up rather sooner than later. But I don't want anyone to have to work on an anime and then endanger themselves. In this time. So
no, that
please,
wouldn't be right.
Just keep this suspended as long as it's necessary. But we will be happy once that show returns. And we will review season 4 and 5 together. We didn't, like you said, review. Because it was only 12 or 13 episodes, and we had to make some cuts because, our last review season got cut short because of my hospitalization. So, that's why we decided to leave Food Wars Season 4 out for now. And I know it's a bit, it doesn't feel as... reviewing season 4 and 5 together might be like the best thing because it's kind of like the end of the arc and like you said, the beginning of a new, so they don't really belong together. But still, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so we're just gonna review that as one batch whenever season 5 is actually gonna be finished, which we have no idea when that's gonna be. So yeah. All right, then I'm going to get to my last keeper, and I think you're all out of keepers?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so my last keeper is not currently being streamed anywhere, so this is a fan sub thing, of course, and that is Brand New Animal, BNA, by Studio Trigger. And that's going to hit Netflix, I don't know when, sometime in the future.
Hey, Netflix, if you're listening, could you maybe, simulcasting, please?
Yes, that would be a nice thing.
Then you might actually get some money out of me.
Yeah, I don't care about dubs. Please don't postpone the series so that you can finish the dub first. Fucking edit later. Who gives a shit? Anyway. So this is the other furry anime besides Beastars.
You're not
it's on
wrong.
the fucking surface. Yes, right? I mean, this is what it looks like. I'm sorry. All animal characters. Well, not all. So these, there are people in this show or in this universe that can transform into beastmen. That term seems familiar from fucking Gurren Lagann. But or, I don't know. It seems like they can transform back into their human form, but maybe not always. I'm not sure how this works yet. I've only watched the first episode so far. But since they, since their existence became apparent, they have been hunted down and ostracized and, and had to deal with a lot of prejudice against them from the normal humans, quote unquote. They decided to create a special ward. I don't know of what town exactly, but it's called Anima City. And that got established 10 years before the show takes place. So this is basically a safe haven for all animal people, all beastmen in this universe, where they can live freely, ostensibly, and, without being harassed, without being persecuted and everything. And our main character is this raccoon girl. I forgot her name, so I'm just gonna call her Raccoon Girl. I'm bad with names. I usually don't pick up on them in the first episodes of shows. She escapes like a bunch of beast men hating humans who try to kill her, and then she gets rescued by a mink/weasel beastman trafficker called Mary. Hey, there's a name I remember for some reason, maybe because it was mentioned several times. So and she ships her over to Anima City, and there seems, and when she arrives there, she's like, holy shit, this is so great. There's a giant festival going on and everything seems to be hunky-dory. And yeah, cool, a beastman can live freely and everyone is in their animal form and, everyone is happy. But shit quickly goes awry as beastman mercenaries hired by humans commit terrorism during the festival, an act of terrorism during the festival. And they get stopped by this wolf guy, another name I don't remember. Maybe it hasn't been mentioned yet. Again, who hates all humans, the other side of the coin. While the raccoon girl is more moderate because she remembers her days as a human when she had just a human life. And she kind of still wants that back, apparently, maybe. Or at least doesn't want to forget it, but that the wolf guy is completely on the other side, and he's like, all humans suck, fuck them, and I'm gonna kill them all. So he's just, he's trying to fucking tear apart the people who are the mercenaries who have been hired by the humans, Raccoon Girl gets in his way. And that's kind of where the first episode ends, in a way. And Trigger's cartoony style lends itself incredibly well to a predominantly animal cast. Even though the animals seem to be able to change back into human form, like I said, so we got some humans in there. Maybe it's like a hologram projector thing. I'm not sure. I haven't seen actually them changing back yet. But I've seen, the mayor of this town, is shown in animal form, and then when she has like a video conference call with another guy with a human from outside the city, she's shown as a human as well. So I don't know how that works. We'll see. I'm interested to find out. I love the animation. This is Trigger, so this looks great. I think this is an Amaishi show, and yeah. It's super cartoony. It's super dynamic. There's a lot of impact in every motion. Like, this looks just like Gurren Lagann, just like Kill la Kill, just like Little Witch Academia, all in the same vein. Very vibrant colors. It's fantastic. And they also do this very interesting thing when they portray the wolf's guy's sense of smell and how he tracks the mercenaries and everything. It's really cool in terms of visuals. And there is, of course, an Inferno Cop reference in the first episode.
Of course.
Yes, and I've seen today in our Discord that apparently there's also reference to Little Witch Academia.
Yeah.
So, that's great. And I'm really interested to see more. Apparently, the production on that doesn't seem to be halted for now. At least I haven't seen it in any lists. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to following that on a regular basis. This seems like a really fun show, and this could go interesting places, and it definitely looks good. So, yeah, of course, difficult if you don't want to resort to fan sub means to actually find it right now, or actually watch it, because it's not streaming yet, but it's coming to Netflix eventually. I don't know when yet, probably at the start of next season or something. I think that's how these things go.
I'd be willing to bet midsummer, early fall.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen already teasers for it, but no dates on them, so I don't know. But I'm in for now, and we're gonna I'm gonna review it when the show is done, be it out on a stream on Netflix by then or not. So, all right. Yeah, that's it for the sneak peek so far, kinda. But like I said, we still wanted to mention all the shows that got, or some of the shows that got affected by COVID-19. And let's mention the other postponed shows that have been coming up. Like we only mentioned the ones where production got suspended so far, but there are also a bunch of shows that are to our interest or relevant to us because of review purposes, and that have been which premiere dates have been postponed. And one of that is No Guns Live Part 2. Mm-hmm. The first core of that show got finished in winter, at the end of winter season. And I originally wanted, to review part 1 and 2 together at the end of this season. That's coming up. But you have to wait a bit longer for that, apparently. Same goes for Sword Art Online Alicization, War of the Underworld Part 2.
Delaying the pain a little bit.
Yeah, so gotta wait for a review for that a bit longer as well. And the last one on my list is The Promised Neverland Season 2. That was scheduled for fall, I think, for fall season. I'm not sure. I think so. And that's also gonna be moved. So that bumps me out a lot because I fucking love Promised Neverland Season 1. So, yeah, but, better safe than sorry. And, health risks aside, you don't want the quality of the show to suffer because, the production is this ramshackle thing because not everyone is available and stuff like that. So I'd rather they postpone it than, this being an inferior product. So I guess I'm fine with that. So yeah, reviews for these shows will be postponed a bit longer as well. John, do you have any more postponed shows you want to mention?
I was kind of looking forward to the final season of My Teen Rom-Com Snafu, but that's apparently been pushed to October, so that happened. I didn't start watching it yet, but I had a passing interest in the quintessential quintuplets, but I guess that's been the second season was pushed to next year. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
okay.
Railgun has been weird because it's been kind of on again, off again, where they'll delay it a week and then they'll have it on the next week, and it's I just sort of feel like, guys, if you're gonna delay it, just do it. Don't run the health risk of, going on again, off again.
It feels like they just slowed down production by just not having all of the staff, available at the same time because of health reasons and everything, but they still found a way to make it work.
I mean, for health reasons, I hope.
Yeah. I hope they take all the necessary precautions.
Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise came back, ran about 3 episodes, and it got delayed too. I'm sort of hot and cold with that show, but it seems like they might be doing something interesting with the second half of it. I don't know. I'll have to see whether or not I feel like talking about it. I think good.
Yeah, that's it in terms of, that's a bummer. But, hey, the Irregular at Magic High School Season 2 got postponed. So that's a good thing, I guess. Fucking...
Well...
What a bad show.
I mean, that's all of the stuff that we have a direct interest in. But, a lot of the really big stuff got delayed to, Black Clover, One Piece, Pokemon, Boruto.
Yes, all the big shonen and weekly shows that, the endless shows that have been running for quite a while now are, suspended right now.
And there are even, of course, understandably so, a lot of movies that were delayed, like Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0. What is with the naming convention of those movies?
I don't know.
Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel 3, Violet Evergarden, the millionth Detective Conan movie, the first Princess Principal movie, and I guess a new Crayon Shin-Chan movie as well.
Weirdly enough, the Detective Conan TV series seems not to be affected.
I guess it must be getting worked on by a different team?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, well, you mentioned another TMS show that you're watching that apparently is not being postponed, so maybe they're just big enough to make this work somehow.
I mean, Fruits Basket isn't postponed either. So.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. Maybe TMS just is big enough to, have people... being able to practice the social distancing stuff while working, or working, or being modern enough to do it via home office and just sending in the necessary work over, I don't know, with car or over the internets. I don't know. I'd be interested to read about how they actually try to circumvent the problems that this situation poses in terms of anime production. I mean, some studios seem to be able to, so I wonder what they're doing. Are they actually risking their their employees' lives. I hope not. Or have they found some good, clever ways to make it work regardless?
Maybe we'll find out about this like after the fact. They got to be more
Probably
concentrated on doing the work and staying safe than, telling the story of how they're doing.
Yes, that's definitely the most important thing. That's right. All right, so yeah, we hope all these shows that we mentioned will return on air eventually when it's safe for them to do so. Whenever that will be. And whenever those are finished, we're gonna review them. I don't know how that actually will affect our next review seasons, like how many of these shows we will be actually able to review and what's gonna happen, and if there will be enough to fill a full season, or if we're gonna do some backlog stuff. I have no idea.
Backlog stuff, or I think we had another idea we could execute on if we need to.
Yes, that's true. We got enough stuff that we can do if there is not enough anime to watch from spring season. But we'll cross that bridge once we get to it. But for now, let's get to our first review from winter 2020, and that's My Hero Academia Season 4. Okay then, let's return to UA High School and get reacquainted with Deku and all the fun other characters from this show. So, yeah, before we get into it, this is of course a continued series review, so spoilers for all seasons of My Hero Academia, including this one. We're just going to freely talk about everything that happens, because we assume if you listen to this review, you have either listened to the other reviews or watched the actual show. So, be warned. We will spoil everything. And there are some big things happening in this season, kinda. Some little things too, but we'll get to that. But yeah, let's do a quick recap of where we left off the best season so far, which was season 3. Because there was so much shit happening in season 3 and so many fantastic moments and the best story stuff so far. We had like the training camp where with the attack of the League of Villains Vanguard squad that abducted Bakugo, and we had the amazing fight between Deku and Muscular, which is now one of my all-time favorite anime moments. Just the whole fucking fight. It's so good. And then we had the rescue mission of the crew trying to get Bakugo back from the League of Villains. And that culminated into All Might facing off against his nemesis, All for One. And yeah, basically All Might handing off the mantle of the light of hope of the biggest hero to the next generation, to, Deku namely, to Midoriya. And there's some things that resulted from that, that also like flow into this season, where it's like, okay, now that the definite number one of heroes is gone, how is the world gonna react? How are the villains gonna react? What's gonna happen? The light of hope is gone. Who's gonna take his place? Will it be the number 2, Endeavor? Who knows? He might not be as capable as All Might. And on the other side of the things, Deku is wondering if he can actually, live up to that expectation that All Might has of him now. And there's a very important part still in season 3 with Bakugo, where he feels like, he is left behind, and, he feels also responsible for basically destroying All Might's career, kinda, because he got abducted, and he feels like if I didn't get abducted, if I was stronger, then my hero would still be the number one and would still be the hero and could still be a hero and the light of hope. And he clashes with Deku over this, kinda, and that was a very intense and interesting fight, and was kind of the culmination of that first character arc of Bakugo and Midoriya and their relationship. And it was an interesting thing how it got resolved, where they become kind of friends now, where they were always antagonists before this, or had an antagonistic relationship. And now they have an understanding. They feel like they're going to walk a bit different paths, but they're both going to try to become the next All Might, the strongest one. And they kind of now admire each other and each other's strengths. They kind of become the new All Might and the new Endeavor in a way, in terms of character dynamic. And yeah, then we have like a small thing where it's like this small provisionally licensed school exam where we meet a bunch of other hero schools and characters from that. And that also plays into this season, where the people who got that license are actually allowed to do Is it an internship? No, did we have an internship before? I don't know exactly what it is this season.
They seem to confuse the idea between like an internship and like a work study a lot.
Yes.
Which is like, they're basically the same thing, though,
yes.
Aren't they?
It's weird, yeah. So basically they run with the heroes there, but now they're not completely overseen by the senior heroes. They got they're basically allowed to act on their own in certain borders, in certain rule sets that are, set beforehand. And they can use their powers and everything, all that shit that they were not really allowed before. They are allowed to engage with fights and stuff like that. They still have to follow orders, but, they are allowed to act more individually and actually get themselves in harm's way and stuff like that. So, yeah. So that's what's basically the setup for this 4th season, kinda, in the beginning. We get a recap episode in the at the very beginning, which is it's clearly intended to be a recap episode, but as this thing goes with My Hero Academia, this is also a nice character piece. Where you have this thing about, about this reporter that kind of finds out that, or has the right hunch that Midoriya is All Might's successor, or chosen to be All Might's successor. And he wants to do a piece on him, but, things develop differently than you would expect, because that guy seems a bit sleazy in the beginning, but he actually is a really nice guy, as it turns out, and adores All Might, and he sees some of the same strength in Midoriya and Deku, and then he decides, I'm not gonna fucking tell the world that he's gonna be All Might's successor. He needs to find his way first, and he does a selfie though with Deku, which was really adorable. So yeah, that again, right from the get-go, we see My Hero Academia like doing everything it's really good at, like showing us, reintroducing us to all the characters, showing us sympathetic bits, and also showing us why Deku is the main character and everything, and why he is chosen to be All Might's successor in a way, because he has kind of the same effect on people in a way. I don't know, John, how did you like the beginning of the 4th season?
I thought it was, a nice little piece between, what was the journalist's name? I think like Tokuda or something, between him and Deku. I didn't mind it too much. Mm-hmm. This guy I work with kind of didn't seem to like Tokuda as much, because he was sort of like, he's just telling, the girls just need to smile and that's all. And I was just sort of like, I don't know, man.
I didn't even pick up on that, but yeah, that might be the case. But yeah, maybe it's like that's how he comes across in the beginning. Like I said, he seems a bit like a slimy paparazzi in the beginning, but you see there is kind of a sweet guy underneath. At least that's how it came across to me.
The same person also had issues with another character that we're going to talk about in short order. So
okay. All right, but yeah.
And, I don't feel like that super colors my own opinion, but there are some cases where I could see it being like, I guess I could see how you could feel that way about certain things.
Yeah. So Deku starts his work study, I think, with a new character, and that is Sir Night-Eye, which is an old partner of All Might. He seems like this, just from the get-ups, he seems like this super strict dude, but who's super obsessed with humor for some reason. it was
even though he doesn't really outwardly show it.
Yeah, it's super weird, and it's kind of when Deku stumbles into his office. There is a scene to be witnessed that can be seen in a very very problematic light.
Yes.
But that doesn't happen too often. But yeah, speaking of the character that is also involved in that, Bubble Girl, this is now the third character with Mega Man boots. I'm sensing a pattern.
I guess Horikoshi's a big Mega Man fan.
Yeah, I think so. Apparently, Deku even mentions Mega Man X when he learns the wall jump from Gran Torino in the manga, which I think didn't happen in the anime. But I think in the manga he mentions it. So, yeah, interesting. I like this a lot. So yeah, Sir Night-Eye, old partner of All Might, all we know at this point is like that they had a falling out. We don't know yet why yet, but he's still an All Might fanboy. You see like posters everywhere and shit. And he is basically the mentor of Mirio, which we met at the end of season 3. I forgot to mention that we met the 3 senpais, basically, like the top 3 students of UA Academy who are taunted to be like the next set of big heroes. And Mirio is one of them, or Lemillion, as his hero name is. And he is basically like groomed as the new All Might by Sir Night-Eye. And he thinks Mirio is a better candidate to inherit One for All than Deku, and only takes on Deku as a work student to make him give up on becoming All Might's successor. Because he doesn't think that Deku has what it takes. Or Mirio is just objectively the best choice. Over the course of this, we also learned that Night-Eye wanted All Might to retire because he predicted that All Might would die in 6 to 7 years. So roughly from 1 year from when this season is taking place. Some death flags raised, which, we already kind of delved into that with the fight at the end of season 3, or in the middle of season 3, where I was worried that All Might would die, but he didn't die yet. But, it's kind of on the horizon. But that's also one of the themes in the show, where it's like, All Might has kind of resigned himself to that, I think. Or at least at some point, but Deku is not satisfied with that because he doesn't want to let go of All Might. He wants to save him, like he wants to save every other being on the planet. But, that's an interesting aspect to their character dynamic in this season. So I like that. Did you feel like they progressed that character relationship adequately in season 4, John?
I mean, I guess they tried to hammer home their relationship. I felt like there was a lot of telling and not showing, though.
Yes.
Because we see, Night-Eye's predictions several times in a flashback, but we don't really have a lot of context for what led up to that. I mean, you can fill in the blanks probably pretty easily, but it's like, okay, we know this, but, what else about it? And I don't know, maybe it's expounded a bit more in the manga, but it just seemed a bit lacking or wanting for detail.
I mean, that might be, to keep things still a bit vague for, how they might turn out later. But considering what happens to Sir Night-Eye in the season, they can't really expand on that. Because
he can't.
Big spoilers, Sir Night-Eye dies, which I did not expect when going into the season. Actually, I had him kind of pegged as maybe the big villain in all of this, because people who can see into the future are always suspicious to me. Because
that in the way he conducts himself on a regular basis is very odd.
Yeah, and that seems like it was intentional. Like he was supposed to be like this maybe red herring thing where it's like, okay, he's acting weird, he's acting a bit like a manipulator, a bit like a puppet master in certain parts, and that, that's the vibe I got from him. But at a certain point in the show, when we go into the battle against the big bad of the first half of the season, which we're going to talk about in a minute, he sacrifices his life, kinda, and all my theories went out of the water. But you're right, up to that point, all how exactly his powers worked, how how far they are able to be like changed or influenced wasn't really made that clear. They only really do that at the very end.
They sort of paint it that he's not really sure either. Like, oh, the visions become hazier the further out I go, which is like, okay, all right, and?
Yeah. At one point, he admitted that he can't change the future with his power, and that kills my... Like that at that point, it killed my theory of him being like the secret bad guy. I'm glad about that. Like, I love to be surprised and wrong about things in these shows, because, you know, if I'm wrong, that it means that it's something that is, you know, unusual or it goes against, you know, the standard tropes or shit like that. And I think Horikoshi actually does that a lot. Bakugo is a good example for that, actually. And also the League of Villains and a lot of the stuff in this show. And but at that point I was like, oh, okay, so if he can't really see the future that detailed and change it really, then he can't really manipulate things to he can just see shit. So, or one other's future. Maybe he can manipulate his own. I'm not sure. Even right now, like you said, his power set is a bit hazy, and how it works into that. Fact of the matter is, Deku is not satisfied with Night Eye saying that All Might will die, most definitely. He is like, no, I don't accept this. I will change that, and I don't want you, All Might, to give up on your life yet. And I just thought that moment between those two, that conversation was really sweet. Maybe we would have liked a bit more of that in there. I feel, you know, some characters are... I mean, My Hero Academia has a big cast, but a lot of characters in this season felt underfeatured. Okay, so we got this working studies, we got new stuff, we got the big three, like Mirio is introduced, and how he's like kinda in a way the same as Deku, but also different, has a different mindset and everything. So his focus and the focus is a lot on him and his friends. We got a bunch of new senior heroes that we learn about, but especially the first half is a lot of characters that we are familiar with now and that we like from the from Class A1 are like stepping into the background and are not featured as heavily. And I've kind of found that a bit sad, because it's like, hey, you've got this great cast of characters that you've already established. Do something with them instead of just throwing a barrage of new characters at us. I mean, these are also new and fun and colorful characters, but also we feel more attached to these characters that we already got to know and that you can still do a lot with. It's not... We have so many characters that haven't really gotten that much of meaningful character arcs yet. And there are not that many students, of our students from the prominent class in the first half of this season. Gets a bit better in the second half, but, you know, it's like the only one heavily featured is Kirishima, I guess. And I'm happy about that. I love Kirishima. Yeah. I think he's a great character. But that's kind of it. The rest is all new characters in the focus here in the first half. And this is a dramatic story. So I feel like they could have done something more with the other characters there instead of just putting all the new ones in there. But I guess they just wanted to do the thing with Night Eye and Mirio and how that relates to All Might and Deku, and that's why they had to put them in there. But it felt like this show in the first half of this fourth season was losing its focus a bit in terms of characters. I don't know how did you feel about that?
Yeah, the big moments that Eijiro got to have, that was sick. It was dope. But after that, it was kind of like, what about everyone else, man? Because this is a series with a very large cast, and it's starting to get to the point where it needs to stop and focus a bit. I kind of felt like this whole season, this show isn't bad, but this whole season was kind of scattershot from beginning to end. Like the first half of the season had a lot of good action, and it had some moments in there in spite of the lack of focus. But then it got to the back half of the season, which we're obviously going to talk about in a little bit, and I was just sort of like, man, this story could have been told in like 6 episodes.
That's true. It was maybe a bit too long, but there were things in there that I really liked, and I will talk about them. But yeah, I've heard the same sentiments where it's like, okay, this maybe went a bit too long. This felt more like the first season in terms of in terms of pacing. So yeah, I can see that. But yeah, let's stick with the first half for now. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, no problem. I always do. My bad.
No problem. So the big setup, like aside from the work study thing and the All Might Mirio Night Eye stuff, is we get introduced to, reintroduced to a new villain that we already saw at the end of season 3, and that is Overhaul, who is kind of the head of this Yakuza-esque organization. What are they called? Shie Hasakai or something? Yes. So he kind of, in the beginning, it's set up like, okay, he and Tomura are gonna. So it feels like it seems like the League of Villains and the Shia Saika are gonna join up. That gets quickly nicked into the butt because Overhaul is like, you have no fucking plan. You have no idea what you're doing. All your plans have failed. All the things you did have failed so far, and you actually managed to get All for One into prison, and you're wasting good people, and you're unfit to become the new All for One. And that's pretty bold statement, but he lets deeds follow his words and immediately kills Magne, one of the League of Villains members, by using his very disgusting powers, which is basically being able to dismantle people on a cellular basis. And he can also put them together. He's basically Crazy Diamond from JoJo's Part 4. But that's his skill, and he decides to not put Magna back together. Basically blows her up, and her torso explodes. And that was one of the most gruesome scenes in My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia has never really been gory, but this is the rare exception, at least for now. And I did not see that scene coming.
That was like, out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was fucking crazy and took me by surprise and left me shocked, actually. So, that fucking banger way to introduce a new villain. Like, you don't really know what he's about. He gets this weird plague doctor mask. Actually, everyone in the Shia Hasaika has those. And, or in his gang, at least, in his branch. And, he's like, nope, this is gonna be my rule set. And after that demonstration of power, Tomura seems to play along and is even, to make this kind of a partnership, but under the leadership of Overhaul, and gives him 2 office members, like as helping hands, the best ones, Twice and Toga. Fucking fun, always. So he sends them over, and of course, this is all a play. He has his own ulterior motive, because Tomura is, despite his plans failing up till now, because he's still learning too. He's kind of a student as well. He is a very shrewd, clever person and knows what he's doing. And so there are a lot of different parties in play here in the first half. Like, you got the League of Villains, you got the Shia Saika, you got the heroes, and all of this basically is kicked into motion and converging when Deku and Mirio stumble upon this girl that tried to flee from Overhaul's grasp, and that is Eri. And her blood has the ability to neutralize powers. It can erase quirks, like, completely. Apparently, you can also, like, revive them with that power, and that's Overhaul's plan. He wants to make bullets from her blood that can erase quirks and that can restore quirks. So basically, he wants to become an arms dealer for both the villain society and the hero society. That's his plan to rise to power and money, success, and to revive the Shiei Hassaikai, which are kind of seen as this fallen from power or / from grace organization that doesn't really have a place in society anymore, that is not really with the villains, and is kind of the lapdog of the police in a way at this point. More public service than anything, I guess. And he wants to change that. And yeah, so that's his plan. And, Mirio and Deku stumble over Eri, and then some revelations, blah, blah, blah. And the senior heroes decide to raid the headquarters of the Shiei Hassaikai, and everything goes to shit, pretty much. And yeah, that's basically the entire first half of this, and all the parts that we mentioned earlier with Night Eye, Mirio with and his friends with Deku and All Might. All of that plays into this, and then it all culminates in this battle between Deku and Overhaul, which, whoo,
it's pretty wild.
At the beginning of the season, I was kind of worried. I was there's no Sakuga moment on par with season 1 or 3, in the first bunch of episode. I was wondering, hey, did the staff change? Or did a bunch of those work on that second movie? What is happening? Because I saw a lot of stuff where it's this looks good, but it looks more like, hey, this is kind of a lot of still frames and speed lines, but not really super great animation. More well-used camera than anything else.
I saw some people saying this looks like they took a panel from the manga and colored it, and it was like, oh boy.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of people weren't happy with that, apparently, and I can see why. The fight between Mirio and Overhaul that happens before the one with Deku and Overhaul, definitely shows that season is missing either some manpower or talent in the animation department. His stand should have been staged on the level of the muscular fight or All Might versus All for One. And it feels they had limited resources and they were saving it all for the second half of Deku versus Overhaul, which looks fucking fantastic.
I mean, I don't know, what happened. Kenji Nagasaki was the guy who's been directing the show since the beginning, but apparently he was the chief director on this season, and I don't know exactly what that means. And the director was this guy, Masahiro Mukai, so I don't know if maybe, that led to some sort of shakeup. I haven't, looked at the complete crew list between the two shows, but it does seem like it was a little smaller. So I think what you were positing about a lot of people were probably siphoned off to work on Heroes Rising could be the case.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. And it bothered me in the beginning because, in my opinion, it was definitely noticeable. Season 3 looked better. Overall, there were more moments that looked fantastic. There are moments that look downright amazing in this, but they're more scattered and, very sparse, in my opinion. It's still a super solid looking show, don't get me wrong. Just in terms of character designs and everything, sure. Artwork, no question asked. It's just the actual animation feels got, lost a bit of its power. I spoke of the fight between Mirio and, Overhaul that happens earlier. An important thing happens there. Mirio loses his powers because he gets shot with one of those quirk erasing bullets, and just with a lot of the things happening in the first half of the season, I felt like this was lacking a bit of impact in terms of character. I don't know, in terms of importance, because we have not spent that much time with those characters. Mirio losing his quirk is tragic, especially once we get filled into his upbringing and his childhood and how he became friends with Tamaki and the others and everything. And Tamaki's quirk, by the way, that wouldn't it really suck if he was a fucking vegetarian?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Fucking broccoli hands. But yeah, that's...
well, I mean, in that case, you could just drop a giant tree on him.
I guess, yeah, it wouldn't be bad. And broccoli is powerful, as we learned from fucking mob psychos.
Yeah. What is it with Japan and broccoli?
I don't fucking know. It's
one of the characters in Love Live Sunshine had a very powerful aversion to broccoli, so
I think the first alien in Gans is a broccoli-headed dude. I don't know.
Oh my god, is it?
Yeah, I think so. So apparently it's a thing. Anyway, so back to Mirio. Yeah, him losing his quirk is tragic, especially if you consider his background and everything. But it doesn't feel as powerful as All Might's sacrifice because we haven't, like I said, spent that much time with Mirio up to this point. You understand his character, you understand where he's coming from, but it's like, okay, I'm sorry for him, but this doesn't feel as important. And also, despite him being a good guy and a possible successor to All Might's legacy, we already know that will be Deku. So that never really was like, not at one moment you would believe that he would become All Might's successor before Deku would. I would have rather believed him that he would be corrupted, what I expected to happen to Bakugo last season, and that he would become like a weird mirror, dark version of Deku for some reason, because he's so good. Like, he's like the ultimate good guy. Like, on paper, he is the new All Might, just in terms of how he presents himself to other people, how he acts. But, you know, there's this thing with him where it's like, okay, I want to save 1 million people, and that's, you know, my name, a million, blah, blah, blah. And that's the thing, he's limiting himself in terms of his goals. And that's the problem. Deku doesn't. Deku says, even if it might not be possible, my goal is to save everyone. So I'm gonna try to work towards that goal and not trying to limit myself. And that's ultimately where Mirio's ambition falls apart. But also, again, it's not why it's not gonna be like, I mean, that's the reason why it's not gonna be All Might's successor, but he loses his powers because of a freak accident, kinda, or, you know, the villains intervening, and it's not like he had any choice in that, or that he can now try to become a better hero and not limit himself anymore. So it's, I don't know, it's weird. It felt like it. I wasn't really sure what they were trying to do with his character at a certain point. Like were they just trying to show, okay, he can't be he could be a version of Deku if Deku was trying to limit himself and limiting his vision of a hero, his vision of what All Might means to him. If that is the case, they achieved that. I don't know if they needed to spend that much time on it. I mean, we don't really spend that much time with this character, but it is portrayed and expects us to feel for him like we did. Like, he has been in here from the very first season, and he has not been. He has been like in the last 2 episodes of season 3 or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, even up to that point before he lost his quirk, we had spent maybe the equivalent of 1 full season with him. And it was kind of like, you gotta give us more than that, man. Maybe if you had introduced them like earlier on in season 3, and then, you know, I don't fucking know, had them sort of, I guess, there, but then, oh, Mirio lost his power. I mean, that sucks, dude, but who are you again?
Yeah, he's more of a theme than an actual character. More like an idea that, you know, needs to, more like a mirror to Midoriya in a way. And a lot of characters in this show are. Bakugo is kind of a mirror to Midoriya in a way. Even Tomura is in a way, of course, right? A bunch of the characters in here are supposed to be versions of Deku if something didn't work out as well as it did for him. Right?
Deku really is Green Naruto, isn't he?
Kinda, but more sympathetic and more well written, to be honest. So.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope the ending of My Hero doesn't involve suddenly aliens.
Yeah, me too. Oh God. I mean, we still don't know where these powers came from, so anyway.
You're right.
Anyway. But yeah, so that was a problem. But it is also like kind of the problem with emotional hooks. Like, the lack of emotional hooks was a big problem just with this season in general, or let's see, at least with the first half for me, where it's like mentioned before, putting our main set of characters into a giant crew of heroes and shifting the spotlight fights to new characters like Sun Eater. The show loses some of its emotional impact because we just are not that familiar with characters, and they spent too much time on them, even though it's not much. And instead of
like a side story, or I don't know if maybe it's expanded more on in the manga. I have no fucking idea.
I would have liked if they shifted some of those emotional beats in one way, like wrote that into the character stories of some of the characters from Class A1 that we are already familiar with.
Hell, a better use of time would have been scrap what they had originally for the first movie and had it be, the other characters instead, like Mirio and company. So that way, we would have had at least a little bit more emotional attachment.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But I mean, it's fine to talk about the first movie now, I guess.
Yeah.
What they did instead was, the villain is not all for one, but he is using his power, so he's a surrogate for all for one. And it was just like, the movie up to that point was fine, and then it was like, oh no, yeah, I guess, all right, sure.
Yeah, at least the ending was very well animated. It was nice to see it on a big screen, I gotta say.
I mean, the second movie did some goofy plot. Had a lot of goofy plot conveniences as well, but it was fine, I guess.
I don't know when I'll watch that, because apparently it has some spoilers for later manga arcs, which we haven't reached yet. So.
I mean, supposedly Heroes Rising was the point where Horikoshi wanted to end the story, but then he went back on it, and then I have no idea. Ugh.
We'll see how this plays out.
I mean, like I told you at one point, the character who's like the villain who is the main focal point of the movie shows up in like one chapter as a cameo, like 30 chapters from where this season ended. So it's like, oh, good to know he was important.
Yeah. All right.
Kind of like another one of the characters who gets introduced at the end of the season, who we will probably talk about, has a bigger role in the second movie, but it's sort of like, okay, sure.
So should at least have seen this season before going into that movie, maybe. But yeah,
that was probably the proper way to do things, but I was like, fuck it, I want to see the movie now. Yeah. And, that was before Roni V rolled into town and shut down all the theaters.
Yes. You got lucky there.
I did.
So yeah, like I said, I didn't really like shifting the spotlight away from a bunch of the characters. Like last season, every one of our main or a lot of our main class members had important roles to play in the most important story beats, like the training camp arc, the exam arc, the rescue of Bakugo. Like that was amazing. Like all the characters that were in that were very important. In this, barely Kirishima and of course Deku, but fucking Ochako doesn't really do anything, even though she's kinda in the infiltration team. And I don't even remember who the fourth member was. Was that Froppy or someone else?
I think so.
Maybe? I don't remember. See, that's the problem. They didn't really have anything to do. Nothing important. And I don't know. I mean, I know why they did that, maybe, but still, it feels like a wasted opportunity. I know why they introduced so many senior heroes, because this needs to be a believable operation, so we need to have enough experienced people to lead that operation. Yeah. So that makes sense. So, and I actually like some of the more veteran heroes, like Rocklock, worrying about their trainees because they are parents. Yeah. Right? Like he is. And that's a nice scene. Again, My Hero Academia, we have been ragging a bit on the fourth season so far, but there are so many endearing character moments in this, where it's like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good character writing. This is well done. And, the season, again, is full of that, too. Like, there's just a small moment. There's, like, in the classroom earlier, and then you see Denki play with Ojiro's tail, because he's super nervous. Just a weird aside. It's just rustling through the fur, and it's like, and that's just like this little endearing throwaway moment. And I love My Hero Academia for this kind of shit. And I'm glad that this was in the fourth season as well. So, also, small aside, the fucking soundtrack transformed completely to the musical score for a second Ace Combat Zero game. I don't know. I don't know if Yuki Hayashi ever worked on that game series, but the mix of epic chorus stuff with horns and guitars sound goddamn familiar in the best way possible, because I love the soundtrack of Ace Combat Zero. So I like that a lot. So that's also cool. The Shie Hasaikai, so Overhaul's gang, is also really interesting. You see some of the characters from his team fighting together, like the three 8 Bullets henchmen, for example. And what the show really conveys really well is that they all have pretty strong bonds and are really dedicated to Overhaul. Because in their eyes, he saved them from a worthless existence. And that was just like a really interesting aspect of their organization and their dynamic and everything. Like, usually you have like, in a lot of anime, shown anime stuff, you have like these conniving or dumb henchmen who actually want to overthrow their superiors or shit like that all the time, and backstabbers everywhere. And you don't really have that in My Hero Academia. Especially here, the Shie Hasaikai, where they seem all really relying on each other and trying to help each other, even if they, throw verbal jabs at each other and stuff like that. But they really seem to have built a trust and a relationship and work off that, and do some really cool teamwork. Like, there's some really cool team action in that fight against these 3 8 Bullets henchmen. And you also have that with the League of Villains. You really get the feeling that Toga and Twice and everyone else is really kind of like on board with Tomura, and really feel like they not necessarily are indebted to them, but like they really share a common goal, and they care for each other. Like, they're like this fucking dysfunctional family. And I think that's really cool. You get the idea. Yeah, maybe Tomura still considers the others as tools in a way, but he also cares for them. He doesn't sell them out when he can to, even if it would benefit maybe his vision or his goals. And that's really cool. Like, they take good care of each other. Like, there's this great scene when Overhaul talks about Magne, and Twice and Toga berate him for not using the right pronoun, because Magne identifies as a woman, and say that he is better not to make that mistake again, because otherwise they will try to kill him, even if it costs them their own life. And that is not a level of progressiveness I expected from a fucking shonen anime.
Right?
So, like, really outright saying stuff like that, basically saying, no, she is a woman, and please address her as that. We do, and we accepted her like that, and you better do that, or we're gonna get fucking angry with you. And I was like, hey, wow, okay. Did not fucking expect that from My Hero Academia. Maybe I should have. Goddamn Horikoshi, okay. Yeah, that was really good stuff. And, the show is full of that. Like, there's a bunch of stuff there's like, okay, this really is like, you got like 2 versions of a dysfunctional family, and the League of Villains is really a strong one. So, also didn't expect that when, I first went into the show. And I like that they do that. I like that these people are loyal to each other, that there's a bond there, a kinsmanship, a friendship in a way, a comradeship at least. And yeah, so that's great. Another thing that got highlighted in this 4th season and that I really liked. How did you feel about it?
I mean, the League of Villains has always been sort of this oddly fun group in spite of their motivations. And I mean, the fact that they purposely chose Twice and Toga was like, oh boy, here goes something.
And it's really fun to see them work.
Yeah.
You're actively cheering for them once you realize what they're doing, so...
Yeah, the big fat double cross was super, super strong. So I liked how, even though they had their own goals, and oh boy, seeing that come to a head after all of this was like, oof, it was still, great watching the build up to that.
Yes. One more thing I didn't like about the Shiai Saikai. One of their members is like rambling about how the old chief was all about chivalry. And that kind of grinds my gears because they are stand-ins for Yakuza in this universe. And dialogue like this propagates the apparently oh so popular view, at least in anime and video games like Yakuza, that there's some kind of nobility in some Yakuza groups, which to my understanding is fucking nonsense. Maybe they see themselves like that. Maybe there was a time where that was like that. But yeah, maybe that's why I never connected with the Yakuza games either. Because when it comes down to it, to me, they are all punks and criminals and assholes.
What are you talking about? Kazuma Kiryu just wants to live a straightforward life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at some point, maybe. I mean, at one point, he's out of the organization, right? He's an ex-Yakuza, but still.
Yeah.
All the other people in this show, in that series we are supposed to connect to are still like fucking punks.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I like trying to give them some of this image of chivalrous underdog knights just rubs me the wrong way, that's all. And that was in this show as well. And I was like, yeah.
I get what you're saying.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, this first half ends with the big fight of Deku against Overhaul. Gets like a power-up from Eri, who basically puts his power into overdrive and puts him basically on almost All Might level, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, that episode was called Infinite 100% for a reason.
Yes. A problem with Eri is she is not really a character. Kinda.
No, she's not.
Like, there's like this magic moment, you know, where Deku basically like reaches out for her and everything and pulls her out of her misery and shit like that. Like she is super afraid, terrified that Overhaul might use his quirk on people who try to help her. So that's why she is introverted, passive. She's pulling away from Deku in the beginning because she doesn't want him to get hurt and everything. But her thoughts linger on him because she has never been shown this kind of protective affection that she experienced when he held him in her arms and everything. And subconsciously, she of course wants that, but she's afraid to take his hand and to accept his help because she doesn't want him or anyone else to die because of her powers. Mm. And, you know, that fear seems justified when Sir Night-Eye gets fucking impaled. But, you know, there's this magic moment where Deku basically convinces her and is like, yeah, no, please believe in yourself. Everything, I'm going to save you. I'm going to be your hero. The thing he does best. And that in itself is a fantastic moment. The way the music hits, presentation-wise, this is fucking probably one of the best scenes in My Hero Academia ever. Just the way it's staged. It's fantastic. Problem is, the moment doesn't feel as good as, for example, the one in the rescue mission for Bakugo. You know, that moment where they just fucking fly over Bakugo and Kirishima just fucking yells at him, come over here, right? And you have like this slow-mo and then just fucking Bakugo's hands just explode, and in the most epic Sakuga moment, he just flies towards Kirishima, grabs his hand and asks him if he's fucking stupid. And it was such the music and everything. That's probably my favorite moment in My Hero Academia, just in terms of how well it is executed and all the different gears just fucking grabbing into each other. Just everything works in that scene. Everything, the emotion, the animation, the soundtrack, the voice acting, everything is perfect in that scene. Like the character arc culmination, everything. The plan working, everything just gives you the biggest feels, and everything feels so good about that scene. I still get goosebumps, and I've watched when I watch it, and I've watched that scene fucking 20 or 30 times at this point. So, this fucking great. This moment, presentation-wise, again, gets there, but the emotions are not really there because Eri is more of an archetype than a really well-established character. But it's a magic moment regardless. Like, animation and music make it happen. It feels good. It's just not as strong as some of the other moments we've seen. Or, you know, Deku fucking standing up to Muscular. Or, you know, the fucking United States of Smash. Because those were characters that were already well established before their magic moment happened. And especially for Bakugo, it was so strong because that character was always on the edge of being like, oh, is he gonna turn out to be the new Sasuke? Is he gonna be like, oh, I hate the whole world, blah, 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 blah. And no, that was like the ultimate turnaround point for him. And it's like, oh no, fuck yeah. This is so good, right? So this is not on that level. It's still a fantastic moment. That fight is ridiculously well animated. It's like Bones at its best. So it's definitely up there, but it's definitely not as good as the best moments in season 3. So yeah. And quick mention of Demon Slayer, which we have criticized for being too by the books when it comes to shonen tropes and storytelling. And especially in regards to Eri, you could say, why are we still singing My Hero Academia's praises when that is also kind of a very tropey, archetypical character and character arc? Well, yeah. For me, it comes down to really digging superhero shit. And all the characters in this show being so damn likable and enjoyable. A bunch of characters in Demon Slayer were not enjoyable or likable. Yeah. Zenitsu, pretty much everyone of the Hashira, it's like there are a lot of assholes in Demon Slayer that I couldn't really connect to, or kind of cold people. And My Hero Academia is filled to the brim with colorful, sympathetic, fun, endearing, heartfelt characters and character moments. Yes, there's Mineta, but he's only a minor side character, so his screen time is very limited, and he gets constant. Yeah.
Say, in the words of another podcast I listened to, Mineta can go.
Yeah. And I mean, he gets constantly dunked on, right? It's not like Zenitsu where it's like, oh, I can see he's a good guy. No, Mineta, he's a fucking skunk.
Skunk!
And the show knows that. So I can live with him being there as long as he gets fucking dunked on most of the time. I mean, he has also his moments where he does shit well, but the show always remembers that he's a piece of shit. So that's fine. Initially, like I said, I thought I would hate Bakugo. That's the way he's set up, but they really turned him around. And I think Demon Slayer isn't there yet.
No.
Yet. We'll see. Maybe it will get there. I'm not saying that it won't. But yeah, that's the reason why I still would rate My Hero Academia higher in a lot of departments. And even My Hero Academia doesn't do everything right in the character department. Like, it tends to prefer throwing a bunch of, like we said, new characters in our faces now instead of expanding on the grade that are already in there. Like I said, the first half of season 4 is actually a pretty big offender in that regard. Most of the screen time besides Deku is given to new characters like Mirio, Tamaki, Fat Gum, Night Eye, and it's all in service of that particular story arc. But, the other characters that we, already like get left in the dust a bit. Like, Kirishima gets a couple of good moments, but I think it was 2. And Ochako were also part of the rescue mission, and we basically don't see them at all. Except for the beginning and the end of it. So it's like, why? Why even bring them along then? It's just like, fucking, there's no point. Just give them something interesting to do. That bumped me out. I know they focused on the new people mostly for story purposes, but I gotta believe there was a way to integrate the great characters that were already established in earlier seasons in there and still bring your plot points and themes across while having them play an important role instead of like jingling the shiny new character keys in front of our faces all the time to keep our attention. That is not necessary. You have a bunch of great characters already in the show, and please expand on them rather than trying to throw, new characters at us all the time.
Yeah.
That just shifts the focus away from the important things. That's why season 3 was so good. Like I said, yes, there were other characters in there, but the focus was always on our core characters and the classmates. And a lot of the classmates played important roles in tense moments. Like I said, during the training camp, the rescue mission, and even the provisional license exam to an extent.
That's why, if you're going to introduce new characters, I feel like, you got to do it on a smaller scale so you can, have that focus. And
or let them simmer a bit before you do something really important with them, so that we get accustomed to them more and can feel more emotional.
I mean, I'm going to keep banging the drum for how much I love Symphogear for the rest of my fucking life, but it did it right. They introduced a small group of characters each season, pulled their stories and, worked them in so it felt organic. I mean, you can argue that with AXZ, but, it worked. This does not.
Yes. And AXZ's problem was more on the villain side of thing and general story, maybe.
Yeah.
So not really the problem. Problem were not really our main characters. And yeah, so it's possible. It's just
you can do it, guys.
Yeah. I hope they, and I mean, we'll get to it now, but I think that's why I liked the second half of this, even though it felt a bit too slow, maybe pacing wise at certain points, and maybe not as important and everything. But the focus again was on our main batch of characters. Like, everyone had an important character bit in a way. It just that the stakes weren't very high because it was about the fucking school festival. But it was a nice breather. So it was like, okay, that's what I wanted from the first half in terms of characters, right? Because I like all of these characters. I've liked them since season 1. So I was really happy to see them do more stuff. And don't get me wrong, there was enough character bits to like about the first half. I liked Overhaul. He was kind of basic, but you understood where he was coming from. That he was saved by the head of the Hasaikai and wanted to bring his, saviors organization back to glory, even by, let's not forget that, temporarily taking his mentor out of the equation because he was in the way of the only path that Overhaul could see for success. And ultimately, he wasn't doing it for himself. Well, maybe a bit, because he was probably afraid to lose his cause in life. But still, mostly he did it for his, adopted old man, his adopted father figure. And also props to Kenjiro Tsuda, who once again delivers a riveting performance.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes coming across as incredibly creepy and powerful, and other times as really frail and on the verge of, psychological collapse. Really cool stuff. That guy is probably one of my favorite voice actors by now.
I will never be unhappy to hear his voice in something.
And it's so unique. It's such a unique color of voice. I really like it. You can always pick him out from millions of other voices because it's such a special voice. So
like him and Takahito Koyasu, I wish if I were a voice actor, I wish I could be even 1% as awesome as they are with their performances.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, relatable reasons aside, Overhaul needed to go down, at least for what he did to Eri, who, like I said, is not really a character, but quote-unquote sad, lovable, abused, cute child character XYZ, who you want to see saved by our heroes. And of course, her quirk mutation is also a giant cheat code for Deku. But, he up, down that shit. But it still works. Because, it looks, sounds, and feels so great. And like I said, once the vocal version of Deku's theme hits for the first time, we are in this beautiful, emotional action anime wonderland and don't leave until the end of the episode. So that's great. And Deku telling Eri just kind of matter-of-factly that her quirk is a blessing, while she probably has considered it a curse until this point, is such a great scene and didn't only bring tears to her eyes. So, and it, among other things, shows while Deku is the main character. Like I said, Mirio was limiting himself by living by the creed that he would only save 1 million people. Deku says, fuck it, I'm gonna save everyone. Fuck the odds, fuck the future that Night Eye has seen. I'm gonna turn it all around and on its head. I'm gonna save Eri. I'm gonna save All Might. I'm gonna be the ultimate hero because I believe I can. And fuck, that was good. That was a really well done moment. So, yeah, good stuff. Wasn't sure in the beginning of the first half of this season, but it ended on a good place. That story arc did. And damn, did Overhaul get his comeuppance.
Yeah, he did.
Holy fucking shit! Talk about Shigaraki just fucking going out there and dismembering his plans. Wow.
I guess you could say Overhaul could use a hand or two after this.
Yeah, Mr. Compress could lend him one of his snazzy new robot arms. But that was one of those surprising what the fuck scenes. Magnus' death, this show really is getting really dark in certain places now, and I like that. I think it's well earned, and it's surprising when it happens. So yeah,
just them rolling up and being like, "Guess what, motherfucker? Was the best.
We need your power." Because we like your plan, but we don't want you involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting the bullets and disabling from ever executing his power again, so they got the monopoly on that shit. Fun side note, again, to wrap up this first half, Ochako even asks if she could have done more to save Night Eye. And yeah, she definitely could have done more in general. But Horikoshi wouldn't let her, and I don't know why. It's beyond me. And another thing, Night Eye's death also does not hit as hard as it could have because we have spent barely any time with him.
Yeah.
Was still a surprise though, but it's like, alright, maybe keep his character around a bit longer and then kill him off when we got more accustomed to him and more endeared to him.
Nah, 14 episodes was enough, wasn't it? You love him. That's how it really feels.
Yeah. I mean, you can say bad things about Naruto all day long, but they killed off some of the characters very late in its runtime, and that felt earned, like Asuma, for example. So
no, but nobody in Naruto ever actually dies, because it's just like, oh, Edo Tensei. Oh, hi, we're back.
Well, yeah.
Even if it's only temporary.
Yeah, but that only really comes into play at the very end. Well, not at the very end, but in the last big arc, kind of. And they could definitely have done more with that. I was really disappointed by how they did that.
The thing is that tool is always there. You always had your set of Dragon Balls.
Yeah, that's true.
Fucking Dragon Ball is the worst about it too. We're going on a tangent.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope there won't be any Dragon Balls in fucking My Hero Academia.
No, I mean, it seems like up to this point, anyone who has died is gone.
Yes.
So at least Horikoshi seems to, up to this point, have the conviction to be like, oh, this character's dead. You might see him again in like a flashback, but I'm not going to magically raise them and hope. And if that happens, I'll probably just be like,
No, yeah, but he seems to be aware that consequences are necessary, so at least for now. So, yeah, it's good. Yeah, and then we dive into the second half, which is basically all about setting up the performance for an upcoming school festival. And, the class deciding on what they want to do, and then a weird villain interferes. Just basically that second half, right up till the end, where it's about Endeavor trying or struggling with being the number one hero now. Like, even though he does his best, crime rate is rising because the symbol of hope is no more, and he doesn't know how to become that at this point. And, All Might tells him that he doesn't have to become a copy of him, that instead he needs to find his own way of becoming the best hero that he can be without rushing anything, but that is also a work in process for Endeavor, because he has his own issues. And, they do something with that at the beginning of the second half and at the end. So that's that's kind of interesting.
I mean, the problem with Endeavor is, they show him trying to change.
Yes.
But up to this point, he's not a good character.
He's not a good guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I mean. And you sort of feel like, this doesn't feel, obviously, even when he gets to that point, I don't ever know if it's ever going to really feel earned. I mean, there was that one moment where he's talking with Shoto, and he's like, hey, I'm proud of, what you're trying to do and what you're becoming, son. And Shoto's just like, yeah, all right, Dad. And he just walks away from him. And it's like, yeah, no, that is the proper response, even though, like, in the next moment, Shoto is just like smiling to himself. It's like, no, come on.
Yeah. I mean, he is his father. There is still connection there. And you're right, Endeavor tries to make amends, but it feels at some points the show expects us to completely forget about Endeavor being an abusive husband and father. He beat up his kids. He beat up his wife. That's, at least, we don't see that necessarily. We see that he kind of beats up Shoto, but it's heavily implied.
Yeah.
And it's nice that he's seems to be trying to make amends and to come to grips with his sins. But still, kind of fuck that guy. Because it's like, hey, I don't even remember. Do we any see where he just fucking outright apologizes to any of his kids or to his wife? We learned that he visits her bed and everything. We can assume that he apologizes to her when he visits her, right? I hope so, but they don't show that. And that's the thing I need. That's the thing I need to kind of feel for this character anything else except resentment. Where it's like, yeah, please try me. Not by just becoming a better hero. That is so secondary to me in your character story. You have been a shitty dad. You have been a shitty husband. And that's the thing I need to see the most. You trying to get better there. And not by being a better hero. That should come fucking second.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the other thing figured out, you can't become a better hero. It's just fucking putting the cart before the horse. And so that's a problem for me. I see what Horikoshi is trying to do with him and putting him on this path for redemption, but right now that is not really working for me. It's really awesome to watch him go, all out against the overpowered Black Nomu at the end, even though, and maybe I'm the only one who was bothered by this, Hawks sends him extremely high up in the sky so he can go like plus ultra without having to worry about civilians, but there is not a lot of oxygen going around at super high altitude, so that seems a bit counterproductive. I don't know.
No, don't worry about it, though. It's fine. Maybe
it wasn't that high, or his powers work differently. I have no idea. And ultimately, who cares? It looked awesome. But, it's still like in the back of your head. It's like you said, this lingering thought of like, yeah, but he's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's trying to get better, but not where it counts for me. Maybe where it counts for the world. But that's not what I want to see from this character first and foremost. He should get his family life back into order, and then he can concentrate on becoming a better hero. So, yeah. So I don't know.
I like that we kind of got to know Hawks through this, because he's in Heroes Rising, and it's like, okay, who are you? Oh, yeah. We don't get to know him in the movie.
He's with this very laid-back hero who is rising through the ranks.
Get the fuck out of here.
I think he won the popular vote in the hero ranking twice or something, and is much more liked. It's not in the official number one in the official ranking, but all the people love him like much more than Endeavor, who often comes across as too threatening. I mean, for a reason, and unapproachable. Although some of his fans appreciate exactly that about him, apparently.
God, that was so weird.
When the one fan just fucking loses his Endeavor doesn't do fan service. Fuck, that's not you. He just wants the threatening stoic type, apparently. But yeah, Hawks is not that. He's like this super laid back, likable guy, like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in a way, but more like the cool kind, not the fussy kind. He's like, oh yeah, I was just gonna go with the flow and everything. So yeah, he is an interesting character, and I wonder what role, if he's going to play an important role in the future. For now, he seems to be teaming up with Endeavor. That seems to be the plan, like them becoming the next All Might and Night Eye, maybe. So that will be interesting, but I wonder if anything will result from that, except for Endeavor being more the focus of the show at some point, which I don't know if I want that.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. But yeah, that's the last couple of episodes of this season. Also, one thing we see in there, was it established in an earlier season that Eraserhead and Present Mike were best buddies? Despite their opposite character types?
I mean, I always sort of felt like it was implied, to be honest. Okay. But,
anyway,
I don't think it was ever outwardly stated.
I think it's amazing. I love their scenes together in this season. That might have happened in other seasons too, and I just forgot. But, yeah. But yeah, like I said, that's the last 1 or 2 to 3 episodes or something, or 1, 2 of this season. And the rest, like, of the second half is, like I said, basically the class trying to set up this school festival thing. And there are a bunch of neat scenes in here that are character focused on our main crew, which is what I wanted from the first half. Like there are a couple of amazing Bakugo scenes, like Bakugo has to do like this makeup exam because he and Todoroki failed in the provisional license exam. And they have to basically watch over a bunch of rowdy kids with superpowers. And, you know, that's problematic. But Bakugo likes telling one of the kids that at some point that you can't look down on everyone or you will be unable to recognize your own flaws. And that shows how far he has come since season 1 as a character. Because that's exactly the kind of character he was in season 1. And now for him not only not being that anymore, but realizing that he was that kind of character. Holy shit, self-reflection in an anime! I'm losing my fucking mind!
Character progression in my shonen story?
Yes, it's amazing.
What?
Great stuff. I might have said this before, but if you had told me at the beginning of the show that he would become one of my favorite characters, I would have declared you insane. But here we are, and I'm glad it turned out this way. So, man. Yeah, also, he has this speech about the purpose of the musical performance, where it's like, no, we gotta destroy everyone else, which is amazing and fitting. And it's super fitting that he's, of course, good at drums, just fucking beating things into the ground.
Yeah.
But it's like one of these things where it's like, no, there's more to this character. Like, you wouldn't believe that he's actually, you know, good at something creative like that, because that's not how he's set up in the beginning of the show. So I really like what they're doing with this character. I think his is probably the best character journey in this show, because it's, you know, Deku's is also good, but it's more classic. It's more your standard, you know, unlikely hero becomes the ray of hope, whatever. And Bakugo is like a completely different thing. He is like Sasuke if he was interesting and cool and sympathetic. So, yeah.
Are you saying Sasuke isn't?
Apparently I am. I think he's Boruto to an extent, but also not really, because he fucking left his daughter all on her own for most of her fucking until her teenage years. So fuck that guy. Whatever.
Also, almost killed a girl who was in love with him. Don't worry about that, though.
Yeah.
Just, you know, don't ignore.
Whatever. But Sasuke sucks. Yeah.
There are some characters that I don't understand how people can be like, oh, this is my favorite, like Sasuke, like Zenitsu. It's like, who hurt you?
Yeah. What is wrong with you? I mean, sure, connect to everyone you want to connect to, but holy shit, I don't get it either. I mean, of course, when I started watching Naruto, I was like, oh, Sasuke is so cool. I see this fucking super gifted ninja, and he has like these cool moves. And over time, you're just like, oh man, God, he sucks. He sucks more than Naruto, and Naruto sucks a lot.
I mean, over time, Sasuke joins Al-Qaeda, and then ISIS, and then, you know... And then he can't decide what he wants his group to be named. He looks at a different animal and he's like, we're not the eagle anymore. We're the cellar rat.
Yes. Close enough. Anyway, so My Hero Academia is not that. Bakugo is not that. And I'm super glad for that. But there are other cool characters. Focus, again, on a bunch of the other cool characters that I'm really happy who are not put in the spotlight that much and who get the spotlight in the second half, which, again, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I like. Kyoka, who is kind of like, hey, since they decide, hey, we want to do like a dance performance and music and everything, she's a musical girl. So fucking go for it. And she does. And it's great. And she's a sympathetic character. And I liked all her scenes in the second half. Aoyama, again, fan favorite by now. He's a sweet treasure, and his open-hearted exchange with Deku about how taxing their quirks are on their bodies was fucking precious. I loved their moments so much in the second half.
That was like the last character I would expect to be like, oh, yeah, you know, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because he seems so weird and off-kilter and everything and quirky. But man... And of course he likes the idea of being a disco ball. Come on.
Of course, come on.
It was so great, man. Again, this is also what My Hero Academia excels at, and I wish the first half of the season would have let it do that. Is like these these characters that it already established being these amazing characters. And that's why I really like parts of the second half of this. Where it's like, oh yeah, this finally, I love these characters, show me more. And there's also there's this great gag with Minita where he says, because of my character design, my hands won't reach around the guitar. Which was like this fantastic fourth wall breaking joke. Which, yeah, that's makes sense. This show is also, one might forget, really funny at times. Yeah, but that's basically the second half. They're trying to set up the stance number, and there's this guy called Gentle, who is a YouTuber, also self-deemed Robin Hood, kinda, and a super goof. And he tries to sneak into a UA high school to make it big, to make his channel big and everything, to become a legend among villains. And Deku tries to, because he runs into him by accident, kinda, tries to stop him because he doesn't want the school festival to be cancelled because Eri's gonna appear there and check out the performance, and he wants to put a smile on her face and her come out of her shell and feel not as hopeless anymore. So it's very important to him that this thing happens. So he squares off against Gentle and Gentle's assistant La Brava. And I like that My Hero Academia takes a bunch of jabs at the profession of a YouTuber, like showing the comment section, for example, which is like, "Give us La Brava!" It's like they don't care about Gentle; they just want to see the fucking girls. They want the fan service. And Gentle is also funny. He's a fucking dumbass who can't even pour tea right without making a mess. And yeah, you could, see him and La Brava and his exchange with Deku and everything be more like, oh, this is the funny filler thing, right? Mm. But in my opinion, if that was the case, it would be the case, that wouldn't really be My Hero Academia. And so it happens, Gentle's and La Brava's background story, how they came to be, how their relationship came to be, what they mean to each other, and how that relates to Deku and what is important to him about being a hero and everything. That all kind of delivered on the fields for me. You can, in my opinion, totally sympathize with the life stories of these two villains, quote unquote, who just had really bad luck. Like, they're not bad guys. They're just these guys who are they had just fucking bad luck. Like, through a bunch of their times. And then they found each other, with Gentle being like this hero course dropout who tried his best and fucking his life up by accident, and La Brava being this bullied girl who tried to find someone to show her a ray of hope. You can understand why these two are sticking together and mean so much to each other. And I really like that. I like their character story. And the show also really conveys really well how Deku's and Gentle's ambitions are very similar to each other in a way, and how they draw power from their dedicated goals. Even though one might seem more important than the other. Both characters started with trying to realize a dream that the world was trying to withhold from them. And now that dream is not theirs alone anymore. For Gentle, it's not only his dream, it's the dream of his and La Brava. For Deku, it's not his dream anymore to become a hero, it's All Might's, it's Bakugo's to an extent, it's of course his mom's, it's all his classmates. So they share it with their dreams with the people who stood by them and supported them to make those dreams happen. And I think that was just a really nice parallel, again, that My Hero Academia brought across with great character writing. And yeah, that's why I also really like the second half of Season 4, in parts maybe more than the first half. Because even though these are characters, again, that have just been introduced, and I mean, they're not killed off and everything, but their background stories are really good, and it relates really well to our main character in terms of themes. So, I don't know. It worked for me, but apparently for you, John, it at least felt too slow.
Yeah, I mean, the story, I guess, behind Gentle and La Brava was fine, but it was like, how many episodes did you really need to dedicate to this? And it just felt like it was, after a point, it was like starting to drag, and I was ready to be done with it, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, that's a shame. I was really tuned into the second half because I was looking forward to the performance. I like Gentle, I like La Brava, and yeah, it didn't feel as important because, you know, the thing that happened before that was pretty much all high drama and everything. People died, and shit got super dark and grim and everything. So maybe that's why I was really happy that we got kind of a breather that didn't feel as important, and I didn't mind it's, you know, that kind of atmosphere sticking around for a bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can plug into that, but it was still kind of like
too long.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I sort of saw where they were going, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, I understand what you're trying to accomplish here, but I wonder how many chapters of the manga that took up.
I wonder. Maybe not as much. No idea. But I just really liked the character writing in this, and considering this is just, quote-unquote, a shonen battle superhero story, I think Horikoshi did some really exceptional work here. And the school festival stuff is also really fun, like that one theater performance where they do this pop culture mishmash of Harry Potter, Romeo and Juliet, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars by Class B is doing it, I think. Just the performance is a fucking hoot. I laughed my ass off. It was so fucking funny.
When they dropped the name of it, which I can't remember now, it was just sort of like, oh, that's what you're doing. Got it. Okay.
One of the fucking the other students even comments on there when they were there, he was just laughing his ass off. It was like, they did too fucking much. It's like, yeah, they did all of it, but it was fucking great. And let's not forget, fucking concert performance rocks. Like, the song is great, and the visual choreography, and, you know, Eri smiling for the first time in a long while. It's all staged super well, high emotions and everything. And yeah, I also like that Kyoka was the focus for a while. I always appreciate when My Hero Academia gives its female characters something substantial to do in a way, because it sure could happen more often. That's most definitely the case. But yeah, I think this season as a whole is definitely not as strong as the third one. I would agree with that. It's definitely more of a mixed bag. But also that is kind of an unfair comparison because, in my opinion, season 3 of My Hero Academia is one of the best shonen anime things ever, probably. Yes, it's completely up my wheelhouse with being superhero shit and being shown stuff and, you know, all that that entails with high emotions and everything and super well animated action scenes. But still, you know, it's definitely more reasonable to look at season 4 and say, like, yeah, there are definitely some things in here that could have been done better than you would if you looked at season 3, which is maybe the provisional license exam aside, which maybe is a bit too long too, but also super fun, kind of perfect. Like, the two important arcs, or like the entire first half of that was just fucking gangbuster, and then also the payoff with the combination with Bakugo and Deku having their fight was also done super well. Mm-hmm. So I think season 3 is the strongest My Hero Academia season so far, and I would say season 4 is on the level of, let's say, 2, maybe between 1 and 2, around that. I think it's better than season 1.
Yeah.
Pacing wise, like, there's still more going on. There's more interesting stuff happening. But season 2 also had a bunch of cool stuff with Stain and Ida and the stuff happening at the sports festival and everything. So yeah, maybe I don't know. I'd probably put it on the same level as season 2, not season 3.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, but hey, I really like it. I think they set up some interesting stuff for season 5. That is on the horizon. Deku seems to be able now to communicate maybe with the other One for All users.
Yeah, that's not entirely clear.
Yeah, this is like the small teaser at the very end. And, you know, League of Villains is still on the loose and shit happening with the weird new types of Nomus and everything who are super incredibly powerful for some reason. Just totally fucking shit, almost taking out Endeavor. So, yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. I've heard some mixed things about coming story arcs, where, again, the thing that I feared happening the most is, well, not necessarily the thing is I feared happening the most. Apparently, in some coming arcs, the focus is not really on moving the main plot forward, but putting some more side stories in there and shit, which I don't necessarily mind, as long as the pacing is okay, and as long as it focuses on the right characters. And I don't know if that will happen. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, and I wouldn't mind to see maybe a flashback arc, to see more of All Might's youth, maybe, his time as an upcoming hero and everything. That would be cool, as a mini arc maybe. So we'll see what happens. But I'm still looking very much forward to the next season of My Hero Academia, even though this season was not as strong as the last one. But I'm still hopeful, because there's so much good stuff still in this season that makes me think that Horikoshi hasn't lost his touch yet. I don't know, John, how do you feel about the next season?
I mean, I feel like this is a show that I never won't look forward to more of it, if that makes sense.
Yes, sure.
So
at worst, it's a fast food.
Yes, exactly. So, if they could pick the pace up a little bit again, and so long as they, keep doing good work in the animation department, I don't know, like we were saying earlier, maybe it's because they were working on the movie at the same time that parts of this season weren't as up to par, but who knows? It could be any number of things.
I hope they're not doing that for the next one. So it will look better again, if that really was the reason why it didn't look as good.
I guess we'll find out whenever that is.
Well, it has already been confirmed that it's in the making, naturally, but...
well, yes, but when it airs, I mean.
Yeah, that we don't know. And especially, COVID-19 fucking grinding some production gears to a complete halt. We don't know what Bones' pipeline is looking like right now, and how that affects the next season, or the production of the next season of My Hero Academia. So we'll see. Hopefully
everyone stays safe in the meanwhile, so...
Yes. Please stay safe, wash your hands, and keep a reasonable distance. I think that's a good sentiment to end on. And that is a wrap on the 92nd episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrit.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter @AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everyone.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
One man's quest to save a friend leads him down a wayward journey of revenge.
And creation runs rampant when 3 girls realize their animated dreams.